Slot. A little earlier, but we're back on a Thursday for a change as we wind down the month of August. Hello again, everybody, and welcome in to the End of the Bench Podcast Network, brought to you by Playback TV. Welcome in for the lucky or unlucky 13th episode of Press Row. As always, we are your front row seat to the intersection of sports, business, media, and culture. Again, right here on ETB, proudly presented by our friends at Playback. That man is Nick Morganson, who just ran the gauntlet of a 16 or 18 round long NFL fantasy football draft. Callum McClurg here in San Diego. Looking out the bedroom window, it is raining at the tail end of the most recent Mexican tropical storm coming up from Baja California into San Diego. But as always, folks, we have another great pack lineup of topics, takes, and deep dives ahead. As always, you can follow us on your favorite social media platforms over at ETB Network, across Twitter, IG, and on TikTok. And don't forget to smash that subscribe button over at youtube.com/ETB Network, which more importantly, we are simulcasting here on the YouTube channels. We also, by the way, are over 1,000 subs. So thank you all again very much for doing that. And of course, ETB is proudly brought to you by your friends at Playback TV, the real-time fan-first experience where you can watch games live with us, react live, jump on a mic, and connect with your fellow sports diehards over in the NBA, Major League Baseball, and soccer, and so much more, including, as Nick has kind of been talking about too, the U.S. Open for tennis is also going on. It's all happening here on Playback. Sign up for free today at playback.tv/ETB Network, and never watch sports alone again. I know, Nick, we have something is waiting in the wings at this rate for tonight's program, but still, though, Nick, plenty of directions to be going here over the next 3.5, maybe 4 hours here today. But of course, Nick, great to see you as always. Hope you're holding up after the draft. How's it going, man? Good to see you as always.
I'm trying to behave right now because there's a certain issue we're having behind the scenes, and I'm getting the same answer a million times from the Playback people who are trying to tell me just to hit a button, and it's not as simple as hitting a button. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But I'm good. I just came off a hour and a half NFL fantasy football draft. I think I did good, by the way, actually. So I'm happy about that. We're hoping to effort Stan Verrett on this show, but if the Playback people be willing to play nice, then maybe we'll get the guest on the show and not type me the same answer 10 million times. Please. Okay, rant over.
Yes, I mean, away from that, though, folks, whether or not we have Stan on, that's kind of right now to be determined. He said 5 o'clock, so we'll see what happens here. But we said, hey, you want to come on anytime at all, you can do so for the night's program. If so, if not. But we'll see how things do go. You can also, folks, hit up the live chat box or also use the Power Chat feature. Or more importantly, you can also drop in your commentary on the YouTube simulcast.
I see him.
All right.
I see him. He's here. Okay.
All right.
So now we got to get Stan on the stage. I see him in the chat. So now, actually, give me 2 seconds. Sorry, I'm doing this in live action currently. Hold on. Because I wasn't expecting to do this on the spot, but hold on. Now we got to scroll all the way down. Give me a second. I can do this.
Or they just kicked Nick off the stream at this rate. Oh my goodness gracious, this is awesome. This, by the way, folks, is part of like what Nick and I are used to with working in live radio or live television.
Okay, so now I'm back. Now, all Stan has to do is just find the join stage button, and he should be good to go, I hope. So, as soon as he finds the join stage button, I apologize.
Nick, isn't this great that, like, literally we have done this in our career, though, whether it be on radio, television, or elsewhere, where it's like doing stuff on the fly like this to make sure the show gets off and running properly.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm trying my best. Like, cry. But hopefully that he's here. He could. It's Stan. If you look on the bottom right, there should be a join stage button. That's what I can say currently. But
They'll give you a prompt about testing your audio and your camera, and then we'll be good to go.
Stan
What's up,
Stan
guys?
Verrett!
in a
Can you hear
flash.
me?
Yes, we do.
All right, cool.
Man, this, I mean, Nick, where do we start? I mean, this is incredible. By the way, this is our 13th episode of Press Row Gang. This is our first guest. And I can't believe that we're actually saying this. This man spent 25 years welcoming you into the ESPN LA studios late in the evening on the West Coast. Alongside Neil Everett for so long, it is our distinct pleasure to welcome in one of the greatest of all time when it came to Sports Center. The one, the only Stan Verrett. Stan, Callum McClurg in San Diego, Nick Morganson out in New York. Stan, we thank you so much for fighting the tech battles, helping us out on Twitter to get you on here. But more importantly, Stan, thank you so much for joining us here tonight to talk about your time growing up and your time at ESPN and your whole career. Thanks again for the time.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. We've been doing the same thing, trying to get this Stan and Neil show off the ground. So I've been doing.
You know our pain. He knows our pain.
Stuff on Twitch. I mean, our producer is like, "Hey, Stan, I can't hear you." I'm like, "Okay, I'm talking. I don't know why you can't hear me." You know, but yeah. So we've been doing a lot of the same things. Me and Neil left a couple of years ago, and I will be an ESPN employee for 2 more days. And then we start Stan and Neil show on September 9th on Twitch. So we're really excited about it.
So I guess, I guess the question, why Twitch? I'm curious off that platform first. I know it's going to YouTube. I know it's going to other platforms.
Yep.
Was that a choice specifically, or was that just a platform choice? Or
so our producer really likes Twitch because of some of the live capabilities. We are going to do the show live to start. And then it'll also be on YouTube and other platforms later. So it's got a lot of interactive capabilities. Hey, but I'm looking at Playback here, has a lot of the same capabilities too. So, but our producer was very familiar with Twitch and really liked the functionality of it, where we could do the live chats during the show and instant polls and all the different stuff. So, I told him, I said, if it was up to me to get us on and get us off, I'd break Twitch. So he knows how to use it. And so I just plug in, and today I'm really proud of myself for getting on, navigating this and getting on you guys. So maybe there's hope technologically.
Oh, Brandon, I love the comment. One of the co-founders of Playback says Playback a lot of Greater Than Science Twitch, and then mentions Stan. Brandon, thank you for being here, by the way. This is awesome. Yeah, we have one of the Playback founders. And again, by the way, folks, Brandon leads the Thursday afternoon town hall every Thursday at around noon Pacific time. They're always getting feedback from all of us here with the Playback community. So, Brandon, thanks a lot for being here. That means a lot.
So I guess I want to ask, because ESPN LA, Callan and I talk about this all the time. ESPN LA, the Sports Center at night, was almost like religion, watching it at night with you two. Can you talk about the chemistry between you guys? Because I felt like that was such a cool atmosphere, you two doing Sports Center at night.
Yeah, so Neil he's a tremendous guy. I mean, he really is. And we got to really be good friends during that time. So we're in Bristol, and there's this rumor that they're going to start in LA Sports Center. And we don't know if it's true or not, but there's just this rumbling, and so we got together early on, and we said, I said, hey, I wanted to go because I'm a big city person. I like nightlife, I like restaurants, I like culture, I like shopping. I like having big city stuff. And so Bristol, and I don't like cold. And so Connecticut was just not my cup of tea. And so when I heard about it, I said, okay, well, let me see if I can somehow get in the mix for this. So, Neil and I were established Sports Center anchors, but we weren't the favorites. I guess the best way to say it. There were guys who could have said they wanted to go to LA, and they could have bumped us out if they were interested. But as it turns out, like Steve Levy is partners in a bar in Boston, the greatest bar. Scott Van Pelt's a Maryland guy, and he wanted to stay on the East Coast. And so little by little, we started to find out that, hey, if we wanted to do it, we were probably the 2 best candidates that they had. So Neil, his whole life was on the West Coast. He had a brother and a sister in California, born in Spokane, went to University of Oregon, lived in Hawaii for a long time. So so the West Coast was his thing too. And so we kind of got together and went to ESPN and said, look, we've worked together some on SportsCenter, but we really want to do it. We think we'd make a great team. You know, you guys don't have to worry about finding one guy and then finding somebody to work with, you know, a woman or a man to work with that person. And, you know, so we just kind of got it together. And we had done a few shows together in the past. So, you know, we eventually, they chose the two of us to work together. So we come to LA and we're doing rehearsals. And so we kind of wanted to get to know each other a little better. So with Neil's Hawaii background, there was a Roy's Hawaiian themed restaurant. It was right down the street on Figueroa in downtown LA. And Neil says, hey man, let's go to Roy's, grab something to eat, a couple of drinks, and kind of just get to know each other, just hang out. And so during that time, we realized that we had a lot of the same philosophies about how to do the show. First of all, we would take the show and the work very seriously, but not take ourselves very seriously. And then secondly, we would always do what was best for the show, whether it was, you know, some things may work better for me than they work for him, or work for him better than for me. So we're always going to be committed to whatever's best for the show. That's what we do. So our producers cannot, I don't know if they could count the times when they would come to either one of us and ask us to do a particular thing. And our blanket response every single time was whatever's best for the show, whatever's best for the show. And so that was our mantra. So anyway, so we're having this conversation and we're getting to know each other, and we're there at Roy's. And so we eat dinner, and Neil says, hey man, have you ever had Longboard Lager? And I said, no. He said, it's a Hawaiian beer, it's fantastic. So, hey, fired up. So we get a couple of longboards and we continue talking and kind of getting to know each other, and, you know, talking about backgrounds and, you know, everything under the gun. And we realized, hey man, we really, really hit it off. 4 hours later, the server comes over and says, we're out of longboard. You guys are gonna have to switch to something else. And, you know, the show was born that night, you know. And so that's kind of the energy that we're going to bring to this, where we, you know, we're just two guys who enjoy sports, who really enjoy each other's company. We did the show together for 14 years. And every night during that 14 years, we sat right next to each other in the newsroom, because we were collaborating on the show, not just when we got to the set, but from the time we walked in the building. We were, hey man, did you see this play? Check this out. Oh man, turn on the Twins game, or turn on that Mariners game, or turn on that Heat game. You know, you won't believe what's going on there. So we're collaborating throughout the entire night. So when you spend, you know, 4 or 5 hours with somebody every single day, you know, you get to know them pretty well, and you get to know who they are. You know, and we shared some pretty significant life moments during our time together. We each got married during that time. I went to his wedding. He couldn't come to mine because me and my wife got married during COVID, and so we didn't really have a real wedding. It was just the two of us. He lost his dad during that time, and, you know, I was there for him because, you know, he was a dad's son, and so was I. My dad died in 2015, and he was there for me during that time. So we shared a lot of real human experiences that went beyond just doing the show together, and became really, really good friends. And so after we stopped doing SportsCenter, each one of us individually had a million people come to us and say, you guys should do a digital show. You guys should do a digital show. You got, you know, and so finally we just said, okay, we have no idea how to do that, but we can find somebody who does. And so Jeff Anderson, who used to be a producer on SportsCenter and First Take, you know, got together with us and talked to both of us. Said, I can help you guys navigate everything, all the technical stuff. And so that's how it all came about. And so we're really excited about it. But Twitch was Jeff's idea to get it off the ground and get it started.
And that is amazing. 4 hours later at the bar, and then the stories though of you and Neil sitting next to each other and basically pointing out, hey, there's a top play maybe from this Giants game.
Yep.
You know, hey, there's a not top 10 of Mark Sanchez having the butt fumble against the Patriots. That collaboration, Stan, is just, I think, what made SportsCenter, like with you and Neil. I mean, if you want to go back to, you know, the Big Show era, I mean, it just looked like there was genuine love for each other, and that everybody punched their time cards, and they came and brought their lunch pail to work. And that's just what made SportsCenter, I think, radiate through the television to us as sports fans, that we got the live, authentic highlights. We had, some of the debate and banter, and we applaud, and we applaud you guys for what you have done. But maybe staying away from ESPN. How about your time getting started in the industry? Local radio, local TV, working in New Orleans, working in Norfolk, kind of jumping around the map. What was that like, though, working in New Orleans, working in Norfolk, or around the country, and maybe some lessons that you had to learn, or you learned, though, as you worked your way up the ladder to eventually get to Bristol and then to Los Angeles for ESPN?
So I'll take you all the way back. When I was in high school, I grew up in New Orleans. And when I was in high school, my original goal was I had it all figured out. I was going to play for my high school, which is a football powerhouse. Tyrann Mathieu, a graduate of my high school, Honey Badger, Leonard Fournette. We've had, some NBA players, Avery Johnson, Kerry Kittles. I mean, we have really strong athletic program at my high school, really strong academics as well, and maybe the best high school band in the country. So it's a really unique school. It's about 800 kids. It's all boys and it's all black. The Josephite priests in New Orleans have a mission specifically to serve the African-American community. And so they just created the school in 1951. So I went there, and my plan was to play wide receiver for them, get a scholarship, go to LSU, win the Heisman Trophy, get drafted in the first round by the Saints, play 10 years for the Saints, win 3 Super Bowls, retire, and become a sportscaster. Okay. So then I got on the field as a third string receiver at St. Augustine and realized, okay, that first part's not really going to work out. So I need to skip past the whole football part of it. And, my mom told me your verbal skills and all your testing are really, really good. You can really write. Your speaking skills are great. Maybe sports journalism could be something that you could do. And, I was lucky. My mom was an educator, and, part of what she was really good at was figuring out how to motivate her students, figuring out what their talents were. And so, I was lucky to have that at home. And so then I said, okay, well, let me go full tilt on that. So I immediately went to the advisor for the campus newspaper, for the school newspaper, and said, okay, I want to be the sports editor. Knew all the football players, knew all the plays, knew everything. So I was the original insider. And so I was able to write about the football team, knew all the basketball players, wrote about the basketball team, and just got started then. Dale Brown was the basketball coach at LSU, and he gave me, one of my first big stories. I went to go interview him and everything. So anyway, there's a radio station in New Orleans. It's a R&B station. There was no hip hop yet at the time, at least in terms of hip hop being played on the radio. But there was an R&B station in New Orleans that was doing a remote broadcast at a bowling alley near my house. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go meet the guys from the radio station, see if I can get in at the radio station. So all I had done to that point was volunteer at this radio station in New Orleans that broadcast. It was really great service. It was called WRBH, and RBH stood for Radio for the Blind and Handicapped. So what this radio station did was every morning at 6 a.m., a volunteer would come in and read the newspaper for people who were blind. And so it was a great service. So I volunteered, and they gave me a magazine to read once a week. And so I would go in once a week, read the magazine, and I had a tape of it. And so I went to this radio station. I got the radio station. I said, hey man, I got a tape of me reading magazines on the air at WRBH, and I got my name and my address and that one station on my resume, but I'd like to do something at the station. So he said, hey man, I admire your ambition. Come down and see me at the station. So I kind of hung out at the station after school, did a bunch of stuff, and kind of learn the business. So I went to Howard University in Washington, got there, and they had a student station. So went to the student station, did that, went back home for the summer in New Orleans, and that program director who had originally given me the opportunity, he left. So the assistant program director was there, and he and I really got along. I used to sit in with him, watch him do his show. He said, hey man, I'll give you a job filling in, while you're here for the summer. So that was my first professional radio experience was that summer in New Orleans. So I get back to DC for my sophomore year, and I hear a familiar voice on the radio in DC. And it's the program director from New Orleans, who's now program director of a station in DC. So I call him up and I said, hey, man, I'm here in DC. I heard you on the radio. I didn't know you were here. He was like, what are you doing in DC? I said, I go to Howard. He said, well, come on down and see me. So that led to a job at the radio station during that time. And I will tell you guys this, that is where I learned my first lesson about being a broadcast professional, because that winter of my sophomore year, we get to Christmas break, and I'm assuming that I'm going home for Christmas break like everybody else. And so I go to get my last check of the semester, go to the radio station, talk to the program director, and he just happened to be there. And I went in his office, talked to, hey, man, Merry Christmas. You know, I'll be back after the holidays, you know. So, you know, let me know what you need from me and everything, you know, but I'll be back on January 3rd. He's like, January 3rd? He's like, go take a look at the schedule in the control room and then come back and talk to me. I was on the air every night, the whole Christmas holidays on the schedule, starting that night.
Wow.
And I had no idea. I had no idea about this. I don't have a place to live because the dorm's closing. And I'm just really like, okay, what do I tell my parents? Like, what do I do with this flight? You know, because I was flying out later that night. And so he said, look, we'll pay for the flight, but I need you to work. And I said, oh man. So I'm sitting there. He said, listen, he's like, I'm not going to tell you have to do it. Okay. It's your choice. But I will tell you this. I'm going to evaluate the staff at the end of the year. And the number one criteria for part-timers is going to be how available they are to fill in when full-timers are off. He said, now you can go home, but how do you think you're going to do in that department? And I said, all right, I guess I'm staying. So I called my parents and I'm like, hey, I'm not coming home. I got to work at the radio station the whole time. And, you know, they were kind of like, hey, look, you do what you got to do. You know, they always told me, pick what you want to do and then just go after it, you know, as hard as you can. So they understood. They said, hey, you got to do what you got to do. And so when I got over the loneliness, you know, I have since realized over time that like that day was when I became a professional, because that was when I accepted the understanding that nights and weekends and inconvenient times and sacrifice, that was going to be a part of the deal. And you just had to accept it as a part of the deal, or you got to do something else. You know, if you wanted to work 9 to 5 or you wanted weekends off or holidays off, you had to do something else. And so I got over that then. So that was a really crucial experience that I had. So then I became the sports editor of Howard's campus paper, and then also got a job at the Washington Post as a copy aide, which was another priceless experience. I met so many incredible people there. I mean, Malcolm Gladwell was starting at the Post when I got there as a copy aide. I met Mike Wilbon during that time, and Tony Kornheiser and Bob Woodward, and so many like journalistic icons who were there at the Post. Ben Bradley. I mean, one of my jobs, he was the editor in chief, and one of my jobs on one of the shifts that I had was to answer Ben Bradley's phone for an hour each evening after his secretary left. And so, you know, I don't know who some of these very important people who were calling Ben Bradley were, but I was answering the phone, and I would always try to figure out who is this person on the other line and see if I could. The only one I ever figured out was Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson called him one time, and he has a very distinctive voice, so I figured out it was him. So I did that, and then when I graduated, right before I graduated, we had a student-produced newscast at Howard, and I was one of the anchors. It was the first year that they had done it, and I was one of the anchors, and the other anchor was Michelle Miller, who is now on CBS, the CBS Morning Show. And we've been lifelong friends, you know, ever since then. So it was a great opportunity. I mean, I had priceless experiences at Howard coming out, so I was raring to go. So Channel 9 in DC, the CBS affiliate, has a reporter training program. And I really wanted to get into that because Frederica Whitfield had been in that program, and, you know, she's now one of the mainstays at CNN, you know, and they had a great track record of people who had been. Gus Johnson from Fox Sports. I believe he was in the program, but I'm not sure. But I think he was. He might have been at Channel 5. He might have been at the Fox station, but they had a great track record of people who who had come through that program. So they had 82 applicants. I got down to the final 4 and then didn't make it. And I had really been counting on making it, so I didn't really have any other prospects. So now I'm looking for a job, and there's a radio job that opens up in South Carolina, in Charleston, where I'd never been before. But the consultant for that station had heard me in DC and told me, hey, we got a job there. If you want it, it's yours. So I said, okay, fine. Packed up everything I had, drove down to Charleston, South Carolina, stayed there for 3 years. And then the station was doing really, really well. But we had a very weak signal. We only had like 6,000 watts. And the owner of the station had applied to the FCC to move up to 50,000 watts. And as soon as he got to 50,000 watts, he fired everybody and hired a whole new staff because he didn't have to pay as much now because his signal was so much bigger. So anyway, so we all got fired. So I'm looking for another job. I was out of work for about 5 months. And during that time, I really, really did a lot of soul searching and really kind of figured out what it is that I wanted to do. Read a lot of inspirational books and spent a lot of time with friends and just really kind of recentered myself for the next opportunity. And that came in Norfolk. So I went to a radio station in Norfolk, was doing the morning show there when I broke into television at the NBC affiliate there. And I was the number 3 sports anchor. And I did a Saturday morning show, a weekend morning show on Saturday and Sunday morning, the coffee cup 2-hour kind of show. And they were, at that point, they were really kind of capitalizing on our radio show. Our radio show was number 1 in the market. I was really well known in that community. I still get people every day from Virginia who remember me more from the radio show than they do from being on TV there. So then I wind up leaving the NBC affiliate where I started, where I was number 3, to go to the number 2 job at the ABC affiliate. And then 2 years later, a job opens up in New Orleans at the NBC affiliate there. And so I wound up going home, worked for the NBC affiliate there for a couple of years. And, you know, I was kind of hunkered in. I said, okay, I'm at home. I'm covering the Saints. I'm covering LSU. Tulane actually got good that year. They went undefeated. They had Sean King in 98 and Tommy Bowden was coaching them. And so it was a great time. LSU baseball won the national championship. LSU basketball with Stromile Swift made it to the Sweet 16, but we didn't go. When LSU made the NCAA tournament, we didn't go. We had a news director who was from out of town who didn't understand we could not skimp on LSU coverage in New Orleans. You can't do it. But he was like, well, you know, it wasn't in the budget. You know, we didn't know they were going to make the tournament. I was like, okay, well, you got to bust the budget then, because we got to go with the Tigers as far as they go. So we didn't go to the tournament. Okay. Then the baseball team was really, really good. I mean, they had so many major leaguers on that team in 2000 that, you know, we knew it was going to be something special. And our sports photographer at the time, his favorite thing in the world was LSU baseball. So he's like, Stan, you got to talk him into letting us go to the College World Series. We didn't go to the College World Series, and they won the national championship. So I just kind of felt like, you know, my station wasn't competing. So I started looking around. And I had met with ESPN officials before at the National Association of Black Journalists convention. I would always make it a point to stop by their booth. And so they were familiar with me and I was familiar with them. And so, you know, I think my work kind of stood out because I was working at home. I knew everything about the Saints. I knew everything about LSU. I knew everything about Tulane. So I was able to hit the ground running there. And in 2 years, it felt like I'd been there forever because it was home. So then I sent the tape to ESPN and, you know, it worked out. And so I wound up leaving New Orleans much more quickly than I thought I would. And now here we are 25 years later.
So I want to take a different approach for this next question. So ESPN did a 30 for 30 on Mike and Dog, Mike and the Mad Dog, all that stuff. And then I look back at some of the iconic duos in SportsCenter, like Rich and Stewart and Dan and Keith. And I look at you guys kind of as like that next iteration to be on that list, both of you guys, with you and Neil. Like, could you see yourself someday kind of making that list and kind of being within that list of iconic duos being remembered for SportsCenter?
Well, you know, we grew up on Dan and Keith. I mean, you know, they have always been the gold standard of ESPN Sports Center partnerships. And so that was certainly something that we looked at and said, hey, if we can be like those guys in our own way, that would be great. We also looked at Mike and Tony on PTI, and the fact that they are actually really good friends. I know Dan and Keith from what I understand, they're probably really good friends. I know Keith a little better than I know Dan, but I think that they're probably friends. Rich and Stewart were friends, but we knew that we had a great opportunity, and we tried to make the most of it. So I don't know if it's for us to say where we fit in that pantheon, but I will say that that's what we were shooting for, to do the best show that we possibly could every single night, and then stack up show after show after show like that, and then let the viewers decide where we fit. So that was certainly our aim, and I think that was a part of what informed our approach, the respect that we had for those chairs, and especially being two guys together who had that kind of opportunity. Because in Bristol, it's tough because you don't always have the same partner every night, and so by virtue of the fact that we were in LA and we were only two in LA, we knew we were going to be partnered together every night. And so that really made it a great opportunity for us to work together as a team, because we had that kind of certainty. And so, that's look, if the viewers see us that way, I'm really humbled by that, because I have tremendous respect for both of those other teams.
I mean, Nick and I certainly think you're on the list with you and Neil. I mean, because like Nick said, it felt like it was like sacrilegious to come home, especially, me also being a West Coaster, get home after work in a game somewhere, you flip on ESPN. Oh, look, there's Neil and Stan to keep me, updated as the night goes on. And,
Yep.
With that late night edition of Sports Center. But I guess, though, and again, folks, we got Stan Verrett, again, 25 years at ESPN, joining us here on Press Row's 13th episode here on ETB, brought to you by Playback. So, Stan, you kind of teased it a little bit. I know that you said the cat was out of the bag earlier in the week, but again, you and Neil are actually teaming up for a new sports talk show in a way on Twitch coming up in early September on the 9th. If you want to peel back the curtain a bit more, what can people expect, though, when they watch you guys with this kind of what he called it, a looser version of Sports Center for both of you guys on Twitch coming up soon?
So we won't have highlights. That's the biggest difference. People are used to seeing us doing highlights. And we were talking about this today. We did a preview show today that we're going to post as soon as our producer, spruces it up a little bit. The show that we're going to do on Twitch and the other podcast platforms is more the show that was happening in the newsroom while we were sitting there watching games, more so than it is the show that we did on the air. Like a little bit of who we are and how we work together crept through in between the highlights, But the show that we did while we were sitting together watching games all night, I think that was far more entertaining. But it's just, we didn't have, that wasn't a show. That was just us hanging out in the newsroom. So in preparing for this show, we spent a lot of time this summer just kind of going out, hanging out, talking about how we want to do this and watching other people's shows and kind of learning, how to approach it. And one day we're at lunch and Neil starts telling me this story about how in his neighborhood in Venice that this coyote got loose. And this coyote was tracking down people's cats in the neighborhood. And he said he had spent the morning that morning bagging up a disemboweled cat that the coyote got to in his neighborhood, and then I'm like, what? So I started telling him about this story. I was playing golf here in LA one day, and I'm on the tee at this par 3, and there's a squirrel sitting under a tree right next to the tee box. And little does the squirrel know, there's a hawk in the tree that's just been sitting and waiting for his opportunity. And the hawk swoops down and like grabs the squirrel. And I'm like, oh man, this is like when nature attacks in real life, And so me and the guys I'm playing with, we're watching this. And so the hawk's looking at us like, okay, you guys have nothing to do with this, so just back off and let me do my thing here. And so he like takes the squirrel and like starts choking him out. and then he moves away from us a little bit and chokes him out some more, and then like flies off with the squirrel. And I'm like, man, that's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. So we're sitting there telling each other these stories, and I'm like, Neil, if we put a mic here, that's a part of the show. And he's like, yeah, but it's supposed to be about sports. I'm like, yeah, it's about sports, but it's about whatever we talk about. Like whatever we're interested in, whatever we talk about. You know, we got eventually kind of bring it back to sports, but everybody we talked to said the whole deal with this is authenticity, being who we really are and sharing who we really are and hoping people like it, you know? And so that's the goal, you know? And so we, you know, that's in testing out all the technical stuff we've been doing the last few days, you know, we just kind of get on and just kind of have some fun. And I really like the way that it's turning out so far, because I was kind of worried about Neil, full disclosure, because like he was kind of like, all right, so Twitch, what is, you know, like I am not technologically that advanced, okay? But I'm Jeff Bezos compared to Neil, okay? Like no joke, his backdrop, he's doing the show from his garage, okay? His backdrop is a whole wall of CDs. And I said, Neil, are those CDs? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, so that means you still have a CD player? And he's like, I do. He's like, a matter of fact, I have two of them. He's like, I got one of them off eBay for like $20. I'm like, well, that should have told you something, that you can get a CD player off eBay for $20. No one has a CD player. So I asked him, I said, do you have a single song that you've ever downloaded? He was like, no, I don't. He's like, I got them all on CD. And I'm like, all right. He's like, so I'm like, so what do you do like if a new song comes out? He's like, well, I'll go to YouTube and I'll punch it in and I'll just like listen to it on YouTube. I was like, okay, well, you can put it in your library. He's like, yeah. He's like, so I've tried out, he's like, what's Pandora? I said, okay, there's progress. You know? So I was worried about Neil kind of getting the vibe of the whole thing, but he's really, really acclimated very well to technology, and I'm really proud of him.
Well, I'd like to get back to the LA vibe for a second, just to ask something from there. So obviously the closure of a lot of programming that happened in ESPN LA, like SportsCenter closing, a lot of other stuff closing, you guys getting to do the final SportsCenter broadcast from there. What was that atmosphere like doing that last SportsCenter there?
You know, it was, while there was some sadness, the sadness had kind of subsided because we all knew it was coming. So we said, hey, look, you know, we're gonna celebrate. You know, we're gonna celebrate everything that we did. This was the first SportsCenter to not emanate from Bristol on a daily basis. And, you know, we took the flag to the West Coast and we turned this show into what it became. And watching a montage of some of the stuff that we did, there was so much stuff that we did that I had totally forgotten about. I was like, oh man, I forgot about it. That was so much fun, you know? So we just tried to, like I said, just do the best we could with whatever we had on a nightly basis. And, you know, you do that over 14 years with a platform like ESPN and its resources and its reach. And it gave us a chance to do some really incredible things. And so that night was really more a celebration of, hey, we did it, you know, we did it. And so now, because of the talent of everybody involved, because like it just so happened, we wound up with so many of the most creative people behind the scenes. And I don't know if, like when we first got there, we had a director who was, I mean, he would do anything. He would do anything. Like we would come up with an idea and he'd be like, okay, I'm going to make that happen. And he'd figure out how to do it. Like, when the Super Bowl was at MetLife, we were talking about that. We were talking about that story. And he said, okay, you guys have winter coats anywhere around? And so I live right down the street. And so I went and got winter coats, scarves, and hats and everything, right? And he created the set. He transformed the set. We were talking, hey, Super Bowl is going to be at MetLife. It's going to be in February in New Jersey. Man, what's that going to be like? And he transforms our set into like this winter wonderland, and he's got snow coming down. He's actually got the vapor coming out of our mouths as we talk. I don't know how he did this. You know, this is 2010 maybe, so there's no AI or anything like that accessible at the time. I don't know how he did it, but he was kind of a magician. and he had icicles on the set. I mean, it was just phenomenal. And so, you know, I think the sort of creativity that we had on the show, I think attracted people who were like, oh man, I not only want to get my hands on SportsCenter, but I want to do some of the stuff that these guys are doing. So people came up with different segments that we did. They came up with just all sorts of different ideas, to the point where we were just the face of it, but there were a lot of really talented people behind the scenes who were just making it happen. So that last night was a celebration of everybody's work. That's why we insisted at the end of the show, we had everybody, you know, come out. I don't know if that part appeared on there, but we took some pictures and, you know, we acknowledged all the people who were on the show, the producers and APs, content creators, everybody who was a part of it, because it would not have been what it was without them.
Stan, maybe staying with ESPN. Obviously, we all know and we live and die with the highlights and the scores and how our teams do, how the rival teams do. But there is also, though, Stan, the human element, though, with sports. And I would like to know maybe what maybe is probably the most difficult story you had to break. For me, it kind of comes to mind about, the Kobe Bryant helicopter crash, Stuart Scott passing, John Saunders passing comes to mind. I even remember vividly, now that it's coming up though, remember watching Sports Center the morning of 9/11, and
Yep.
I think it was Brian Kenny and Kenny Mayne were doing the morning show, and the ABC News Bulletin flashed on the ticker tape to flip to your ABC affiliate about what was going on in New York. So maybe
Yeah.
stand away from scores and highlights and championship victories. I might know your answer, but even the Saints winning after Katrina, also comes to mind as one. I'm sure it will for you, but maybe away from all of the highlights. What about maybe some of the lowlight stories that maybe come to mind for you that you were probably at the desk when they broke, or continuing on the days long coverage of an event like that?
So the Katrina one personally, there's two. That's one of them. The Katrina one personally hits hard for me because my parents were born and raised New Orleanians.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, hurricanes would come. My mother taught at Dillard University in New Orleans, so they had all these big, sturdy old buildings, and so we'd go to Dillard, go to one of the big, sturdy old buildings, wait to see how the hurricane affected our area, and a lot of times it would just be you replace the carpet, maybe some sheetrock, and you keep it moving, once the water recedes. So I'm in Connecticut at the time, and I called my mom and dad. I said, hey, what are you guys gonna do about this storm? They're both retired living there, and they're like, we're getting out of here. And I'm like, whoa, this must be pretty bad because they're leaving, because we never left. We never went out of town or evacuated, we just wrote it out. So they left. The drive from New Orleans to Atlanta is about 7 hours normally. Okay. Both of my brothers were living in Atlanta at the time, so they were going to stay with them. It took them 21 hours to get to Atlanta.
Oh, goodness.
Because all the traffic was going one way, getting out of town, because, the forecasters knew you need to get out of here. And there was a mandatory evacuation, so everybody left. So I'm in that weekend. So it just so happens that week I was going on vacation, the week that storm hit. So I originally was going to go to Miami. Had put in, got flights and everything. So the storm originally looked like it was headed to Florida, but so they canceled everything in Miami at first. So
Right.
My flight got canceled. So I said, okay, fine. I'll just go home to New Orleans. So they changed my flight to New Orleans. Okay. So the storm gets in the Gulf of Mexico, flips around, starts heading toward the Gulf Coast, towards Mississippi, Louisiana, and parts of Alabama. So I'm like, okay, well, fine. I'll go to New Orleans. So a friend of mine was having a birthday party in Detroit. So I went to Detroit from Connecticut, and I'm there that Sunday. Played golf with a buddy there. The party was on Saturday. Played golf on Sunday, and so Monday I'm flying out to New Orleans, or so I think. But then I had to change the flight now back to Miami because they canceled everything in New Orleans. So I'm like, wow, this could be really bad. So I had to connect through Nashville. So I fly Detroit to Nashville. I get off the flight in Nashville, and I got 29 messages on my phone.
Oh my goodness.
And that flight was maybe, I don't know, 2.5 hours, 3 hours or something. And I'm like, wow, this must be really bad. And so everybody on every message is, please tell me you're not in New Orleans. Please tell me you're not in New Orleans. Please. Everybody knew I was on vacation. A lot of coworkers, other friends who knew I was coming, and so I'm like, wow, this must be really bad. So I go to a TV in the airport, and they're like, yeah, this is getting really bad. So then I get to Miami, and it could not have been a more beautiful day in South Florida. I mean, it was just beautiful. But so I go to a beach bar on South Beach, and I'm watching the levees break on the news, and it, like I said, I got a frozen drink, and everybody's hanging out at the bar having a good time, and I'm like, wow. And so somebody looks up and says, man, that's really sad. And I'm like, it's even sadder when you know all these places and you've been all of these places. Oh my God, you're from New Orleans? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, this is heartbreaking to see. And so I watched it happen, and then I had a friend who lived in Miami, and she couldn't find her dad, and she was panicking, and she was like, I can't find him. She eventually did find him. Luckily, her dad was on the roof of their house for 2 days. And, he had brought up some water and food to the attic and said, okay, I'm just going to wait it out here because the water just came up in his house, So that story in particular, at that time was just devastating. But the subsequent story of the rebirth, and that incredible game in 2006 when they returned back to the Dome against the Falcons, and Steve Gleason blocks that kick. I mean, I was there for that game. We did Outside the Lines from New Orleans, and I wasn't originally involved in the show, but I kind of went in the computer, looked at what they were planning on doing. I was like, okay, I need to jump in here and help out. So I went to the producers and I said, look, give me a camera and a van, and I can take you places where you need to go in New Orleans to see specific things about what happened. And, I said, well, can we go back to your house? I'm like, yeah, I don't know what kind of condition it's going to be in, but if we can get there, yeah, we can go back there, and I'll show you the house where I grew up, which was also flooded, and the house where my parents had retired, which was flooded. And, and then Michael Smith got involved. He was from New Orleans too. He's from New Orleans too. So he got involved. We went to his house, and we just kind of, we told the story from the standpoint of two New Orleans natives. And we were on the set for Outside the Lines, outside the Superdome. So then I go to the game, and, I'm getting chills just recounting it now. But when they came running out on the field, they're playing, I think it's Green Day, Saints Are Coming. Is that Green Day or U2? Who's that? The Saints are coming. I can't remember.
When the Saints come marching in?
No. It's a song called The Saints.
It's U2.
U2. So they're playing U2. The Saints are coming, and they come running out on the field, and like everybody there is just 72,000 people just screaming from their diaphragms, just like letting it all out. Like, hey man, we've been going through hell for the last year, okay? But our football team is back, and this is the first sign that things are going to be okay eventually. And so I'm in the press box for that game, and Stephen A. Smith is there and Wilbon is there, and then like I couldn't hold it back. I just started just sobbing and crying and thinking about everything that my family had been through. I had an uncle who had to get airlifted out of his house. Catholic Charities did just phenomenal work. They went into nursing homes in New Orleans and just got the people out. And they said, we're going to get these people to safety, and then we'll figure out how to get in touch with family members. But the first thing we're going to do is get these people out, put them on flights, and get them somewhere. So they wound up taking my uncle to Little Rock, Arkansas. And my parents eventually met up with the Catholic Charities volunteers and went and got him. But the stress of it all, he was in poor health already, but the stress of that kind of took him over the top, and he died not too long afterwards. But everybody had stories worse than that one. We were lucky. And so I was just kind of just feeling the intensity of the entire experience. And I think that's what everybody was going through at that moment, that converged with the team running back out on the field. And so Wilbon kind of looks at me, and he can see, and I'm kind of, I'm trying to stay cool, and, but then Stephen A. Smith looks at me, and at the time he was still writing for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and Wilbon was still at the post. And so both of them wound up, both of them came over to me, hey man, we need to talk to you about this. Obviously this is affecting you. We're both writing about this. We need to talk to you about this. And so I talked to both of them and kind of gave them the gist of what was happening. And then Gleason blocks that punt. And, I've been going to the Superdome since I was 12 years old. I had never heard that kind of a roar in the Superdome. I mean, it was almost surreal. I mean, and it's against the Falcons, and it's the first game back, and it was just. I mean, the 2000 Ravens couldn't have beat the Saints that night. The great Cowboy dynasties couldn't have beat them. Nobody was beating the Saints that night because you were playing against 72,000 people who had just had a life-changing experience, and so they had to win that game, and they knew we got to win this game for the city. And Steve Gleason now has added an entire other layer to the story in his battle with ALS. And the forecast was not for him to live very long. And he's still alive and has become an icon for people dealing with ALS and anybody who's struggling with anything in life. He's just become like a human champion for resilience, for toughness, and just that whole thing, the whole story of it now. And then there's the statue of him outside the stadium blocking the punt, and it's called Rebirth. And it's been such a thing. And just to bring it back to me and Neil, I can't remember what year it was, but hey man, dude, I got to go to a Saints game with you, man. You come back and you always talk about how much fun I got to. So he comes down for a game. We're playing Tampa Bay. Saints playing Tampa Bay. And, in New Orleans, you guys familiar with NASCAR?
Yes.
Okay. So in New Orleans, if you don't have a restrictor plate, okay, you can get out of control quickly. I mean, when it comes to like hanging out, partying, okay?
Yeah.
You need a restrictor plate because it's a super speedway. Okay. New Orleans will serve you until you say stop. Okay. So we go out and like Neil likes to have a good time. And so we go out and hey man, you want to go to Frenchman Street? And there's all these live music venues on Frenchman Street. And so we go to Frenchman Street and we look up and it's like 4 a.m. And I'm like, okay, Neil, kickoff's at noon, dude. We gotta shut it down here. But he loves music and loves to have a good time. So we are kicking it. And so we go to the game and they lose to Tampa Bay. Everybody in my section, I've been sitting in the same section for the last 12 years. Everybody in the section is like, hey, look, man, we love you and we love Neil, but we lost and he can never come back. Okay. So
yes. Neil Everett is the jinx.
bring my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, bring her, don't bring him back, or get him a seat somewhere else because he can't sit in that seat anymore because they play terrible. So anyway, so as a thank you gift, Neil gets me a Steve Gleason jersey.
Oh wow!
Because Gleason's from Spokane where he grew up, and so he was a Gleason fan as well. And so, because of my dad, I never really had a Saints jersey because my last name's Verrett. We don't want anybody else's name back there, So I always had stuff that said Saints or New Orleans, but never a player jersey. But the Steve Gleason jersey is still the only one that I have, and it's the only one that I wear. And I wear it proudly because of the man that he is and what he means to not just our city, but people all over the world.
So I guess
so there was that story, and then the Kobe Bryant story. I mean, living in Los Angeles, and experiencing that was it's hard to put into words, and I work with words for a living. But the first thing is when he played his last game, our studio is right across the street from what was then, I don't know if it's crypto yet, but right across the street from the arena. So his last game, I said, you know what? I got to see at least a part of this. So I went over late in the third quarter and I watched the fourth quarter when he went berserk. Right. And every shot he put up, the whole building was willing it into the back and they just kept going in. And he's hitting threes and he scores the 60 points. And I'm like, this is about the most amazing connection I've seen between a player and a fan base live, so I got to experience that part of it. Okay. And when we first got to LA, 2009, 2010, the Lakers won the championship both years.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got to experience it as soon as we got here. Like what that team, particularly when it's winning, means to this area. I mean, it's bigger than life. So the morning that he died, I'm at home and I have a friend who's a reporter in Philadelphia. And she sends me a message and she says, hey, we're getting reports in Philly, which is his hometown.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting reports here in Philly that Kobe died. And I'm like, what? I'm like, no, there's no way. That would be all over everywhere in LA if that happened. There's no way that happened. I double check your sources. I'm not saying your source is wrong, but I'm just saying nobody's reporting that here.
Okay. Right.
So I wait a few minutes and then I'm watching Golf Channel. And, they're affiliated with NBC. And then there's a crawl on the bottom that says NBC's reporting that Kobe Bryant has died in a helicopter crash. And so I immediately text her back. I'm like, I don't know. It looks like it's true. It's true. So we're like, okay, so what happened? And then there's all these rumors that Rick Fox was on the helicopter with him, that it was his entire family, Vanessa and all the kids and everybody. So there's all these rumors floating around. That's kind of like you're trying to figure out what's true and what's not. And then when it got confirmed, when I tell you every local station here,
yes,
just went on and stayed on.
Yes,
they stayed on all day and night. And then I have pictures and video from the makeshift memorial. So it was the day of, it was either the Emmys or the Oscars. I can't remember. It was either Emmys or the Oscars. And it was at the award ceremony was at Staples Center.
Yes.
And so they told people, we know that's your connection point, but don't come. Okay. There's going to be a perimeter set up. The people said, to hell with that. They came anyway.
Yeah. And
they started building this makeshift memorial. And people were bringing keepsakes that they had gotten. Some of them signed items from Kobe. And they were like, I need to put this here to memorialize his death, And so there was just the spontaneous, and it went on for days. And so the mayor and the people at LA Live, which is the entertainment complex across from Staples Center where our studio is, they're like, we don't want to shut this down out of respect for how people are expressing themselves, but how long is this going to go on? And it was a week before it subsided at all. I mean, more and more people every single day, every single night. I mean, and it was so respectful that there were items there that I'm sure were worth money.
Oh yeah.
But no one dare stole anything or it's just unbelievable. And then you travel around LA now and there are just murals everywhere. Some with him and Gigi and Gigi with the angel wings and some with just him. And I mean, it's just, it was just, it was so sad that he died at such a young age with so many ambitious plans for what he was going to do for the rest of his life. And then Gigi planning to live out her own basketball dreams. She planned to go to UConn and be the next Bryant basketball star. And she never got a chance to do that. And so there was a real sadness to it, just an unbearable sadness to it. But then there was also the realization for somebody like me of what sports means to people,
right?
And what the people who connect via a team through a city or a region or even a global fan base, like what they mean, and what an awesome privilege and responsibility it is for me to get to tell those stories that help to create those relationships. And it really helped to put what we do into focus, that this is really meaningful in people's lives in many cases. And it extends into real things that they're experiencing as human beings. And sports can give them an outlet sometimes. But oftentimes it carries way more meaning than just a score on a scoreboard, And so that was the other experience I think that really affected me as a human being as much as it did as a sportscaster.
I mean, the other one I'd like to ask about too is obviously you and Stuart Scott. That's another one I remember that day. I
Yep.
remember hearing the news.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching him every day, watching Sports Center. Can you kind of talk about what that meant to you? If you had a relationship, what that was like being
Yeah.
with Stuart?
So I knew Stuart before I got to ESPN. We're in the same fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha. And so I had met him at the NABJ convention and seen him at other, sporting events. And so we knew each other. And, when I got to ESPN, he kind of helped me get settled in and, showed me a lot of fraternal love. And then we step, fraternities, Black fraternities step on our campuses. It's kind of a show of pride, of fraternal spirit. And so, I would see him in the cafeteria and he would just start stepping and then I had to join in, So everybody else was looking at us like, well, what are these guys doing? Because they didn't really understand it. And, our fraternity was founded in 1906. And so we were the first Black fraternity. And so our call has always been one guy will say 19 and the other guy will say 06, right? And so I'd be in the cafeteria, wouldn't even see him. And I just hear 19, and then I had to say 06. And then again, people are like, what is that all about? Where these guys are yelling numbers across the room, So we had that bond. And I remember, when he first got the diagnosis, and, I went to go talk to him about it and just kind of, wish him well. And, hey, man, any way I can help, if you need anything, whatever. And he said, hey, man, look, I know you mean well, as everybody does when they come to me. He's like, but think about it. If I had all of these conversations with everybody who's coming up to me, cancer is all I would talk about all day. He's like, so I don't want to talk about it. He's like, I appreciate where you're coming from. I know it's coming from a place of love, but I don't want to talk about it because I'm tired of talking about it. I'm fighting it. And so I said, okay, I will never breathe a word about it again, And so then it was just kind of watching him, like he would go and do chemo or radiation and then he would go do a full MMA workout afterwards. That's what he used to keep his strength up, And there are people who just, they have those treatments and they just go collapse at home and try to just strengthen up for the next one. But that was a part of his fight, And so, we knew it was coming, but that morning I was here in LA and I was going to play golf that morning and somebody sent me a text message, that he passed away. And, I looked down on my phone, I see the message and I hit it. And then I just kept driving, just kept driving. And then I looked up and I'm like 20 miles past where I was going.
Oh,
and I'm like, okay, where am I? Cause I just been thinking about him, and it hit a lot of us hard because, again, he was so young, and what he did at ESPN in terms of bringing his personality to SportsCenter and really evolving how it was done. It was one thing before Stuart, and it was something really different after Stuart because it gave not just people who had some of the same cultural touchstones like me or Kevin Frazier, but other guys like, Rich or Craig Kilborn, guys who had their own style that was different from just a straightforward approach. And now they felt the freedom to express who they were too, because, hey, Stuart was doing it. Totally different cultural references, totally different flavor to it. But it was the same approach. I'm going to bring who I am and what I'm into outside of sports into my approach to sportscasting. And it changed things at ESPN. So his legacy at ESPN and as a sportscaster is really important because it created, the vibe. Like, is there a Stephen A. Smith without a Stuart Scott? Is there a Pat McAfee without a Stuart Scott? I mean, is there anybody who came at it from a different way other than a straightforward, hey, here's the score, here are the highlights, thank you and good night. Anybody who did more than that and made that a part of their presentation, they owe a debt of gratitude to Stuart Scott. Because look, everybody wasn't on board initially, because a lot of people, if you didn't watch In Living Color, or you didn't watch Arsenio Hall, and he's like, you didn't know, like, what is he talking about? Pookie and Ray Ray and them and all. Like, a lot of people were like, hey man, no, that's not what we're doing here. But he said, listen, the audience gets it. Whether you get it or not, the audience gets it, And there's a documentary that's coming out about his life. And, I participated in the production of that documentary. And I just kind of reminded people like what was happening during the time he was on SportsCenter. You had Arsenio Hall, you had In Living Color, you had 90s hip hop, the golden age of hip hop. And so that was the cultural zeitgeist of the time, and Stuart fit in perfectly with that and brought all that to SportsCenter in a way that, like, people who got it, who knew, the music of the time, who knew A Tribe Called Quest, who knew Public Enemy, who knew the music of the time, and who were familiar with In Living Color and the Arsenio Hall and that whole vibe. Stuart fit perfectly within that, and there were so many young people who were experiencing that, and they instantly got Stuart because of it. And so that's he was perfect for that time in helping ESPN gain cultural relevance outside of just sports because of what he brought to the table.
Amazing. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and in the manner in which you live. So live, fight like hell, as he said at the 2014 ESPYs in Los Angeles, California. Stan, we're going to let you get out of here, man. We thank you for spending over an hour with us after we were kind of jumping over the tech hurdles. But where can people find the show that you and you'll be starting hosting on the 9th? And more importantly, where can we find you on socials?
Okay, so I am at Stan Verrett everywhere, StanVerrett. Not as active on Instagram, pretty active on X, not as active on Instagram, but I'm going to do better at that. And at Stan and Neil Show, just at Stan and Neil Show is on all platforms as well. And the show starts September 9th on Twitch. We're trying to iron out a time. We believe it's going to be 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, but we're going to be live on Twitch, and then after that, the show will be on YouTube, and it'll be on all the other digital platforms as well. So we're really looking forward to it. Listen, this has been great with you guys. Getting my digital media legs under me,
No, I appreciate it. I mean, like, Stan, you're great. Like, Count and I have watched you and Neil for years, so this was a thrill of a lifetime for the two of us to get to talk to you and get to hear more about your journey in that way.
Hey, man, in episode 13, man, best of luck to you guys, too. I know this is a fledgling enterprise for you guys, too. So best of luck to you. I really enjoyed the time together and, really enjoyed the conversation.
We appreciate it. We'll try to talk again sometime.
All right. Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you very much again, Stan. How about that? Stan Verrett, ESPN icon, 25 years. Everything you can think of, though, with SportsCenter Los Angeles. Reminiscing on a lot of great things here.
Yeah. So just remove them there. But that was unreal. That was unreal.
I mean, can we just call it a day now?
Can I instead of cloud 9, I think I'm on cloud 100 right now.
If there even is a cloud 100, but we still have, though, folks, plenty more to go as we now enter our regular portion of the program again. Major thank you again. God bless Stan Verrett again. Over an hour here spent on Press Row. I mean, Nick, this guy talked everything that we threw at him. Obviously proud, born and raised New Orleans native, and that experience, though, after Katrina, that first game where the Saints played, and obviously them winning the Super Bowl that year, and really, like you said, though, really does show how much sports mean to the general population out there.
By the way, humble human being on top of
Unreal.
it. Unreal. I think I threw a tough question at him talking about iconic SportsCenter duos, because that could have gone anywhere.
Agreed.
Because first of all, I think you and I agree that they've taken over the late night portion of whatever Sports Center was
Absolutely.
in such a
1000%.
legendary way from 2009 to. I didn't even realize he was still technically employed for 2 more days at ESPN,
I
like he
know.
said.
Same here.
But that show's going to be unbelievable. He said it perfectly. No highlights, just personality. There's so many things. There's so many more things I could have asked, but I didn't want to take up any more time because over an hour is a long time.
Unreal.
By the
Yeah.
way, I just want to say one more thing. We will cut that interview out and we will re-air it at some point. It'll be up here, but I think we got to take that interview and put that up so people
I mean, it's going to be chopped up into clips. It's going to mean everything. But again, namaste. Thank you to Stan Barrett of ESPN. Again, spending over an hour with us here on PR. All right, Nick, into the rest of our program here. Speaking of major media deals, but Ryan Russillo reportedly is in talks to leave The Ringer to launch a new production company financially backed by Mr. Dave Portnoy and Barstool Sports. The move would see Russillo's highly popular podcast and all of his new content distributed via and through Barstool Sports. Ryan's departure from The Ringer, where he's been a key figure, signals a new trend of top-tier talent seeking ownership stakes and creative control outside of established media companies, like an ESPN, for example, or The Ringer, but also solidifying Dave Portnoy's ambitions to build the media empire beyond just Barstool Sports. So, Nick, with Ryan and Dave now joining forces is a seismic event in the sports media world. What does this partnership in your mind say about the future of talent, and does this mark a new era in some way where bigger names will seek to become their own bosses?
So this is interesting because the way the business and I kind of kicked myself because I didn't ask Stan this question about the new show about how everyone's going the self-made route. You no longer have to travel all around the country anymore from East Coast to West Coast. You and I talked about this the other day.
We did, yes.
Where it's like, do I really have to go from New York to California to Florida to Georgia? Like, that doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it does, but you don't have to do that anymore. It's like I said, as long as you have one of these in your hand, you can record yourself doing videos. Like, you can make short videos like we do it on our YouTube channel, which is being simulcasted too. I mean, you don't need a network anymore like you did in the past where everyone's like, "Oh my God, I want to make it to ESPN." That's the be all end all in the business. Well, you don't need that anymore. You have digital companies now that exist. Now, what murkies the waters a little bit on this story in that regard is so Russillo, and it looked like I thought he was going to stay at The Ringer. And
I thought so too.
I thought him and Simmons actually got along. Like he was on the BS show. Yes, that's what it was called. Which was a great name, by the way.
I was going to say genius branding.
But they did a basketball show together at one point. He did his own show. His podcast is awesome. Like, talk about a guy. Stan is great. Don't get me wrong. I want Ryan Russillo on this show too, because I just want to hear like all the stories between him and ESPN and going to The Ringer and now this production company, which we really don't know a whole lot about yet, but it's going to be a production company, which a lot of big names are doing because it helps control their content rather than being controlled by a network or an entity. It makes it easier to do shows. Now, the wording is interesting in this story.
Yes.
That it says that Portnoy and Barstool are investing in the podcast and the production.
Which one is it?
So my prediction or thought is that the show is going to be on Barstool platforms.
I think it's going to be.
It's going to get distributed by Barstool, which, by the way, that's a fantastic name to pick up because he's a personality guy that likes to kind of break that fourth wall a little bit. At ESPN, that kind of was... He was great for many years. SVP and Russillo,
they
national
were great.
radio show.
They kind of became a midday staple for a long time, if memory serves me correct.
So it was Mike and Mike, Colin Cowherd, SVP, and Russillo.
Yeah.
That was Murderer's Row of national radio for ESPN radio for
1,000 times over. 1,000 times over.
There'll be nothing like that ever again in this day and age.
I agree.
And
1,000%.
that show was the place where SVP and Russillo could be a little bit corny, outside the box, didn't have to be always sports. But I feel like towards the end, it didn't really. He didn't fit there because they
Agreed.
want to be sports, 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 sports. That's all ESPN. They don't see the other angles of an athlete besides sports. So does this make sense? Yes, because one, it also helps that Big Cat and PFT have had
Yes.
Ryan Russillo on. Oh God, why am I forgetting the name of the podcast?
Pardon my take.
Thank you. Pardon my take. More times than I can count. Those two are friends with it, so that made sense. That probably opened the door a little bit, but this is a no-brainer. If he's going to be on Barstool platforms, he can do whatever he wants and not get in trouble for it. So,
Yeah, and I think you're right though about like breaking that fourth wall, because we kind of know how ESPN used to operate at one point. Hey, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that. But I also think though, Nick, that we always say this. I mean, we need to put this on a shirt. Changing media landscape is just where we're at right now. Where we'll talk more about Dave Portnoy a bit later in the show though, concerning Big Noon Kickoff on Saturday from Columbus. But I mean, this in a way though is like really adding to Barstool's, maybe in a way making up for kind of the lack of credibility that Barstool has had, but by adding Russillo. But again, we don't know how this will play out though. But I think though, Nick, that you and I both agree, we're a little shocked though still that Russillo would leave the Ringer to go and start a brand new like platform from scratch with Portnoy's backing, with the Brinks trucks and the money and the checks.
I mean, was I surprised? Bill Simmons could be a little bit of a sometimes.
Yeah, we know that.
When it comes to personnel, he was at ESPN. If you remember, he had Grantland. If I'm aging myself a little bit now, but
on top of that, he was also in the 30 for, and then he was also in a 30 for 30 about how the Red Sox swept the Yankees in the 04 ALCS.
Wasn't he one of the original creators of 30 for 30?
At least one of the top.
It was one of he was
part
producers?
of a group.
He was a part of a group that helped create 30 for 30. That was actually one of his ideas. So I don't know. Like Grantland then got destroyed, and then they tried to put I forgot the guy's name. He was over at ABC for a long time, but helped on the ESPN side. But
Josh Elliott? No, not Josh.
No,
Elliott.
the guy who did the My Wish stuff. But not important. But my point is,
by the way,
yeah,
Bill Simmons, lead creator of the 30 for 30.
That's what I thought.
Along with Connor Schell. Those are the main two guys that started with 30 for 30 on ESPN.
Connor Schell was the number 2 guy at ESPN. Yeah. I don't know if he's still there, but I don't know. The relationship kind of soured. Like, he talked about it on his podcast quite a few times. Oh, I'm looking into free agency. I really thought that going to the Volume and working with Colin Cowherd was where he was going to end up.
Oh, man. Could you imagine that with Colin, Nick Wright, and then having Russillo on the Volume?
Those two, because they did radio right on top of one another for many years. I mean,
so many years. Yeah, so many times.
And he's been on Cowherd's podcast many times. Like, there was, I don't know if you saw the interview they did quite a few months ago. I thought he was trying to put the sell on to bring him to the Volume. That would have been such a perfect spot, in my opinion. But I actually kind of think it makes sense that he goes to Barstool, because the horizons get spread even further.
Agreed.
Because it's not all about sports. Like, do we love sports? Do we talk about sports? Yeah, but are we going to go off the unbeaten path from time to time? Yeah. But we do. Like, but this is I think it makes total sense. It's still this is the big thing now. Like McAfee, he licensed his show to ESPN, but he has a deal where all his lower thirds are run during the show. I don't know if you've ever picked up on that before on ESPN.
Yes, I have seen that.
It's all McAfee's lower thirds, like that run on YouTube. And stuff that they run on ESPN. That's all from having licensed creativity over your programming. Like, can you imagine if we did this for a network? We wouldn't get away with half the stuff we're doing here.
No way, no how.
Like, since I run all the stuff we do here, we do what we want. Like,
for sure.
Excuse me. So there's more room. And that's where I think Russillo was really thinking. I think he would have had plenty of room at the Volume. But
I think so.
But this makes total sense.
Yeah, I don't know if Coward would have put shackles on him, but I think he would have, said, "Hey, do your thing. Just, go from there."
I'm fine with either one, to be honest.
I am too. Let's stay though, Nick, in the sports digital content space. But John Stugatz Weiner, the Dan Levitard show, has announced a major partnership with FanDuel that will see the sports betting giant become the exclusive betting partner of all Stu Gotts content. This deal is a sign of how podcast and athlete-driven media are becoming a vital part of the sports betting ecosystem, but also raises questions, as we have long said, though, Nick, about the line between sports content and promoting gambling, a line that is becoming increasingly blurred in the modern day sports media landscape. So, Nick, with Stu Gotts announcing a massive new deal with FanDuel, what does this mean, though, for the Dan Levitard show going forward? And do you believe that Stu and Dan's relationship, working wise, might be over?
It's been very interesting, and myself and Tom Albano did a video on YouTube, which blew up the internet for whatever reason. I don't know why, but we talked about this, and now we're talking about this. There's something going on there. We don't know what. I think they just came off 20 years. That's a big deal to be
Huge.
a duo partnership of a show. They started all the way in local Miami radio for many years. Dan didn't even want to do radio for the longest time. He was a Miami Herald, I think, writer.
He was a writer at one point before he got into television.
And I think it started in radio, then it went to TV. But so Stu Gotts was the one that started the radio station, essentially, that they were a part of. He brought Dan over. Stu kind of became the phone guy and the radio guy, so Dan could basically be the player fool around guy. Like,
right.
Then it evolved. Then they moved up. Then they went to ESPN and did ESPN Radio and really built it up. Now, it became a character-driven show, and I mean that quite literally.
You think, or do you know, my friend?
Yeah, and I think after 20 years, Stu Gotts, first of all, that's not his real name, as you said. It's John Weiner. Now I understand why he went by Stu Gotts, because that's a tough name to hear on the radio every day. But I think he just got tired of being the punching bag.
Agreed.
For 20 years. I don't think they'll ever, again, like Mike and Mike, like SVP and Russillo, like the Dan Levitard and Stu Gotts. You're not going to see anything with that incredible duo. You're not going to see people lasting for 20 years for as long as they did. It's a different time today in the media landscape. People go where the most money and the most views. And I hate saying this because a certain idiot used to be on this network would only focus on views and content and not think about relationships, which is where I think we don't do enough of that in this space.
Mm-hmm.
And I can admit this now because I mentioned Tom. Tom and I, we went off we split for 7-8 months from doing content on here. Okay. And I felt bad about it. He felt bad about it. I've been trying to reach out finally, and I have to thank Zan for it too, because he really helped us put it back together. And we did a video. It felt like old times doing a show. That's more what it should be about, that you want to be around the people that you appreciate to do content. But this, you could tell this is a separator because Meadowlark Media is DraftKings.
Right.
Stu Gotts content is FanDuel. So
they're competing entities.
That sounds like a split if I ever heard one. And Stu Gotts has been vocal on quite a few big podcasts and saying like he was tired. Like reportedly, he said they're not friends anymore.
Yikes.
The contract that he signed is that for less appearances on the Levitard show. I think this signals the end, if you ask me.
I think so. I mean, especially though when you have one guy with one entity and then one guy with another entity. That'd be like someone being sponsored by Pepsi and someone else being sponsored by Coca-Cola. That's a kind of in a way like how I compare it is like competition. And I also think you're right though, Nick, that eventually you get tired of kind of being the fall guy, the clown, made fun of essentially on the air for as long, kind of in a way like Stu Gotts was, where it's like, I need to take ownership of my own content and let's go and do it this way. And now maybe in a way though, Nick, he's getting a chance to really amplify his thoughts on the sports world or thoughts in general without having to, cater to Dan Levitard or like another co-host's, their thoughts, their takes, what have you.
I think also Dan gets a reputation of being a little too political during his show.
Agreed.
And that's really not the Stugatz mantra by any means. Like,
Right.
Stu likes to have fun and do funny stories and joking about athletes and all this stuff. Like, how much can you sit there every day and listen to Dan talk about left wing politics for? Like,
Ugh.
and forget it has nothing to do with size. I'm just saying, how long can you listen to the politics for? Like,
Right.
it's supposed to be sports. Now, let me be careful when I say I'm not saying shut up and dribble. That's not what I'm saying here because that I forgot who said that on the air, but um, you got to have fun with a show. Like it's almost like Dan forgot what it's like to be in this space a little bit, and always Dan was like punch, 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 punch. Like, can you imagine that would be like if I started like doing this to you nonstop? Well, or I could think of someone else who was doing that to you while they were here. But my point is that you have to find the right mix between content, people you work with, the right place of distribution for it, and work together. That's the biggest thing. And I'm sad to see it it hasn't been the same show for 3 or 4 years. It just
Definitely.
ever since they went off on their own and they took on Metal Arc Media and all this stuff. Like, I remember when it first started, like, oh, we're the pirate ship. We're gonna go off and because you've heard of pirating radio and all that stuff.
Yes.
That's where the joke came from. But it's sad. Like, I think the two were good because Dan was a little bit more of the serious sports journalist, and John Stugatz was more of the fun. So it kind of melded together into a funny show. But it's over. We can pretty much say it's over because now they're on two competing sides.
Yeah, it's over. And it sucks though when that happens, like, Mike and Mike separating, for example. Other, like even when like Mad Dog and Francesca, stopped doing their show together, I think if they ever did, when those breakups happen, it really sucks. So that they become part of like your day as a sports fan. They become part of how you get your information.
Every
And
day here in
obviously,
New York. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, especially when, like aforementioned of Mad Dog and Mike Francesca for all those years, and Golick and Greenberg, how that divorce happened. I mean, that was something else.
That was ugly, and I'll never forget when it happened. And Greenberg went off to do this crappy show, Get Up, which I can't stand. I think it's overtaking television. Golick, I think he was kind of unfairly treated by ESPN and kind of got shown the door when really shouldn't have. But look at the pattern, though, slightly. 20 years. You notice that with some of the relationships here. Levitard Stugatz, 20 years. Mike and Chris, almost 20 years. It's a long time.
It's a long time.
Sometimes you have to go off and do your own stuff. Now, I will say Mad Dog has been far more successful on his own than Mike, going off to be on satellite, doing 3 hours a day, on First Take, had an MLB Network show for a long period of time. Far more successful than Mike. And everyone used to say Mike was the bigger. Well, Russo had more personality. That's why he did better. Mike is a wet
Agreed.
blanket sometimes. Same thing with, I think Golick, even though Greenberg has, I guess you could classify as more successful because he's doing a morning show on ESPN, or he did the radio show for a while but had to give it up because he was doing NBA Countdown,
Right.
and all that. Is he still doing that? I think he's still doing that. But
I think so.
But Golick is fine. He's doing a show with his son. Like, he was at DraftKings for a while. Now it's over at FanDuel, and it's on all the TV networks
Yeah.
for FanDuel.
That includes the two here in Southern California.
And I think Junior is now doing, was it Pac-12 games for TNT?
I believe so, yes.
So the two of them are fine. Like, nothing's happened. They'll be fine. Like, I'm not worried. But
They'll be fine.
20-year relationship seems to be the common decency here. Like, it's a long time. Like, people think duos last forever. They just They don't.
They don't, and you wish that they could. But I mean, once you kind of get to 20, if you get beyond 20, that's kind of saying something. But it does look like the line of demarcation seems to be at 20. Nick, let's go to some ownership news real quick in both the NBA and the WNBA. The Minnesota Lynx and Timberwolves co-owners, Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lore, have now come under scrutiny and fire for laying off about 40 employees, many of whom have been with the organizations for years. The move comes as the pair is currently finalizing the purchase of both basketball teams and trying to restructure business operations. The layoffs have come without, or have not come, though, without criticism, as they have been called cold and also corporate moves that prioritizes profit over people, raising questions about the potential ethics of modern day sports ownership. So, Nick, is your boy A-Rod and Mark Lore ownership group right to make these kinds of moves in the restructuring of the organization, or is this a bad look for new owners who should be building bridges rather than burn them? And Nick, this is always what I say, though. Whenever a new owner comes into a franchise, and I was a little worried about this on a personal note with the Padres because Peter Seidler had passed away over the course of the offseason last year. There was a major lawsuit filed by his widow about who was like perhaps next in line. And that had the fan base kind of, like, oh my goodness, we're going to be in for a long year. Because usually, and I've seen this happen in my market with the Padres, when the Kroc family sold the Padres in the 90s to the group of 12, which was led by Tom Werner and the Warner Group, that became a PR nightmare. You know about Roseanne Barr singing the anthem at Jack Murphy Stadium, but also what happened? The trade of Joe Carter, the trade of Gary Sheffield. They acquired Trevor Hoffman, and they trade away all the big, fire sale, like the Miami Marlins have been for quite a long time. And that was kind of like the worry and the concern when that legal battle is still going on between Shield Seidler and John, who did become the control person. Is, well, if this team gets sold by the Seidler family, who's not to say that the ghosts of the past in San Diego come back to the limelight, where they shred the payroll, they trade away Machado and Tatis and Merrill and Bogarts and Cronenworth because, well, you'll okay, eighth biggest market by population, but you have no TV deal. Your ballpark is overrun by visiting fans, so we're going to trade away your team. You can watch prospects for the next 25 years and not be on the cusp of a world championship. That's always my concern, along with, though, Nick, when longtime members of the front office, the organization, though, get that pink slip from a new owner says, okay, we don't need you, need you, need you, need you. This is now our show. Take a hike.
I mean, there's a couple ways of looking at this. One, would it be nice to have some common decency for people who've worked in an organization for a long time? Yeah, absolutely. Number two, the ownership is the ownership. They're in charge.
That is true.
So it doesn't really matter what your opinions are from the outside of the team. You have to remember also, when new owners come into any franchise in any professional sport, they have to clean up either what happened beforehand, and they have to reabsorb all the mess that was left behind.
But can we say the best examples are the Commanders after Dan Snyder finally got relieved of his duties, and Donald Sterling with the Clippers,
and the Suns,
and the Suns?
Yeah, well, the Donald Sterling one will go down in history as just one of the biggest messes of all time.
Like, I guess we did a whole podcast series about the Sterling tapes.
Right. So the Suns one is a mess just because he basically made enemies with everybody at the top of the organization.
Pretty much.
So that one is a little different. Now, in this situation, when any new management or new ownership comes into something, they're always going to put their people in. That's just reality. So would it be nice, like I said, to keep people who've worked there 10, 15, 20 years? Yeah. Do they have to, though? No. This is business 101. When you take over ownership of a business, including something that's a rarity because not many people can own a professional sports team unless
Correct.
You have millions or billions of dollars. The Mark Cubans of the world really come to the fruition in this situation. So he sold, I think, like 63 or 64%, I think, of the Mavs. I think he kept like 21 or 22%. So he did that knowing that he was going to sell the majority, and then he can hold on to part of it. But I think it's the owner of Carnival Cruises.
I think it's the Adelson family who operates casinos in Vegas, because
Oh, yeah,
there was that very like out of left field rumor that they were going to move the Mavericks to Vegas.
which would be a nightmare, just in my opinion.
It would never
But
happen anyway.
right, because they're already trying to put a new team there. But
Expansion team, yeah.
this is people need to understand that business is business. And Nico, who does our social media, actually says this to me all the time, and I agree with it. Business is not personal.
Correct.
You have to separate the business side from the personal side. They don't exist together. You know when they say like you can't really mix the two of them together. You have to remember, like, and I think it's a rarity here at this network because we all get along and we're friendly. That it's a different situation here.
Agreed.
But you have to remember, like, we take time away, like, and we'll sit and we'll just chat. That's the time to be friendly and be personal and all that stuff. When we're on here, we do shows and we work together. It's the same thing in business where there's plenty of time to have personal time off to the side. But business is business. If you have to remember, like, all leagues and all teams are looking at the bottom line of what they bought as their entity. If they don't think they can make money with what's currently in place, they're going to chop and they're going to keep chopping until they get where they need to get. So is this a surprise to me? No. But I don't know if I would call it burning bridges, as you technically referred to it. I think it's more restructuring the bridge, if you want to use that phrase.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously new ownership will have their say about what they do. I think, Nick, you would probably, I think, agree though that you just hope that the new ownership doesn't affect the on-court product, as we have kind of seen though when owners have come in. Again, like I said, the Padres, when they were sold to the Warner Group again, they traded away every star player they had to meet the ends meet, and that led to attendance going down at Jack Murphy Stadium to, like when the A's were barely in their final years in Oakland, like 8,000, 9,000, 10,000, which I know kind of in a way began to ring an alarm bell with me, like why would the Wolves trade Cat to the Knicks? But it still, though, worked out for both teams. But at the end of the day, I agree. It's not really burning bridges. It's they're beginning to lay their foundation for this new era of both Timberwolves and Lynx basketball in some way, shape, form, or size.
The Expos. That's another
Expos.
example. I mean, because people remember towards the very end, what were they getting? 5,000 fans a game, maybe?
And they were playing half their year in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
And it was, and first of all, the travel was a nightmare to
Big
get
time.
there. So people say, well, I want the Expos back. Is there really a market for the Expos in baseball?
On top of there being a ballpark? I don't think so.
And first of all, like Montreal, you're thinking more hockey than you're thinking baseball. I mean, you got to think from a market cap perspective. The last time we were there, we had 5,000 fans. 5,000 fans a game is not going to make you any money, just from a reality standpoint. The Marlins. Look at the Marlins. Like, how many fire sales? After they won the World Series in 2003?
And in 97.
Oh, right. In 97 and 03. 2 World Series that they won. What did they do after both of them?
Get rid of them.
They fire sold everybody. And we're talking about guys like Pudge Rodriguez, Carlos Delgado,
Miguel Cabrera, Juan Pierre,
AJ Burnett. The list goes on and on and on. But because what do they care? Oh, I won a title, but how do I make the bottom line? That's what they care about. Football does this more than baseball does. Okay, we signed him to a contract, but it's not fully guaranteed. Snip, snip. We'll get rid of that contract and do away with it.
Eat the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, folks, the Lynx and Wolves, underneath the new ownership of Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lohr, came under some scrutiny for laying off only 40 employees, but still many of whom had been there probably since maybe day one with both franchises in some way. The move, though, again, is as they are completing, and I believe they finally finalized that purchase of the Wolves from former owner Glenn Taylor, who I know was like trying to come back to the fray after the whole thing ended, and he came up empty.
Well, he claims that they violated the deal. From whatever I read, that they didn't have enough money to cover the payments or whatever. First of all, Glenn Taylor, go away. Like you're such an old fashioned owner. Like you want to sell it, just sell it. Stupid.
And also more importantly too, folks, that the I don't think we talked about, but the Minnesota Twins sale is officially off the books. The Paulette family did in fact say, I think after the trade deadline, and they almost sold half their roster too.
More.
They will not pursue the sale during the season. They'll wait till I believe the year does conclude.
That,
Nick, go ahead.
I was just going to say that the way that Twins organization is run is awful. Awful.
Yeah, they are. I mean, their division's already over. I mean, they're kind of grabbing at wild card straws, but yikes.
They called up half the minor league system to replace.
Yeah, it's not good. Nick, more importantly, let's get back to our last topic here for the first official hour of the show before we get to the actual final hour after, again, a great interview with Stan Verrett here today. But Nick, reports are still indicating that the Peacock network, that is NBC, is now in the final stages of a deal to acquire the rights from ESPN for Sunday Night Baseball, a deal that would include some games airing exclusively on Peacock. This is a massive shift for Major League Baseball and marks the first time in over 30 years that SNB would not be on ESPN, with the move highlighting NBC's aggressive strategy to build its sports portfolio and gives it a valuable piece of live content for both linear and streaming platforms, and would add another package to everyone's favorite day of Sunday for NBC. So, Nick, with NBC reportedly being near a deal to steal away SNB from ESPN, what does it mean in your mind for the future of baseball, but also for baseball on TV, but also does this also in a way mark a turning point in the league's relationship with their media partners? Because we have seen, though, Nick, so many stories, though, about Netflix with the Home Run Derby, NBC, ESPN maybe doing local games now. What will happen with Fox? Thank God Apple TV Plus is going to be, in the dumpster when the year's over. Get rid of that damn Roku deal, too. But, Nick, thoughts about NBC now, almost in a way prying away SNB from ESPN probably come next season?
Well, ESPN was already trying to get out to begin with. Like they technically had 3 years left.
And they said, we're done. We're out of here. They walked away from the table.
And now MLB's trying to pull them back in from the reports. But I think this is good for NBC. By the way, no one's talking about the fact that NBC's going to have a Sunday night slate all year long.
Football, hoops, and baseball?
I mean, NBC is going to become the home for a lot of sports. Like they're going to compete with ESPN. Now, ESPN's competing on the digital rights side more, which I think in the long run, that is going to pay off for them.
Agreed.
But from a TV perspective, NBC's killing it between, like we said, Sunday Night Football, because the NFL season is going to be here before you know it. NBA, which we're going to carry a ton of those games on here.
You think or buddy?
Yeah. And then Major League Baseball, they're talking about wild card too. I mean, so this is interesting for a lot of reasons. What I think we need to mention too, which we talked about last week, was the MLB TV deal, which is eventually going to be bought by ESPN. That's right, Christy. Are you ready for some football? Oh, I missed that. But yeah, this is phenomenal. I think NBC is doing everything right. This kind of feels like the 70s and the 80s, which we weren't even born for, but it kind of has that old-fashioned feel where you're getting back everything. And NBC has college football and college hoops. They just made a deal with, oh God, what's his name? He just left Fox. Oh, John Fanta.
Yes.
So NBC's on it. They lured him away from Fox to go to NBC full time.
Crazy.
So home run. ESPN. And first of all, I don't know what local games means on ESPN. I don't know what that means. Do you know what that means?
I still want to say it's only going to involve the clubs Padres, Diamondbacks, the Rockies, the Guardians, the Twins, all the teams who kind of in a way got screwed over by that Bally Sports in the FanDuel Sports contract when it ran out, and they've been produced by MLB.tv. Some quick research, Nick, by the way. This would mark the first time, if you take away the Sunday leadoff package that Peacock did have 2 years ago or for a season, this would mark the first time since 1994 through 2000 and 47 through 89 that NBC would carry Major League Baseball in its full entirety like this.
You're talking about like Vin Scully day baseball. Like that's before our time, even. I mean, I don't know who would call the games. That's where I don't know. If you had to speculate on that, who's calling games for NBC?
I have no clue.
I'm trying to think who's there now that would even call baseball.
Bring it to Rico.
No, please don't give me Tirico. I've had enough of Tirico. I think that's the one sport he doesn't do, right?
I don't think so.
Because he's doing NBA for NBC already. He's doing the NFL.
Yeah.
First of all, how many more jobs does Tirico need?
Well, he doesn't need. Well, he also does the
horse racing, also
horse racing and studio coverage for the Olympics too. Every 2 to 4 years.
Jesus, how many jobs? I mean, don't get me wrong. I think he's being paid like $6 or $7 million a year at NBC. So if you're making $6 or $7 million, you'll travel wherever NBC tells you to go.
Absolutely.
But
man, who could? Yeah, I don't know.
NBC owned it big time. Like, bravo! Like they really. And now think about this. They're gonna have the Olympics too.
Yes.
Next year. So, how much coverage can you fit into 1 year, NBC?
So I asked my good friends at Google Gemini, Nick, about potential NBC Sunday Night Baseball announce teams.
Oh, this should be good.
So they say, while an official broadcast team for NBC's potential Sunday Night Baseball is not confirmed, the network the network will likely pull from a pool of both established baseball commentators and top tier talent from within their own ranks. The top two candidates, John Boog Sciambi and Jason Benietti.
Well, so Boog's got to deal with Marquee in Chicago.
Doesn't he still do ESPN radio for certain things?
He also does certain games on TV for ESPN also. And I think he might do college basketball during
I think ESPN? He does. I think he does basketball and then Jason Benietti does football and basketball.
Well, Benietti doesn't work for ESPN anymore. He now works for Fox.
Yeah, he also does Tiger games locally.
So that's interesting. I don't know if Boog would leave because Boog is the main voice for Marquee now for the Cubs.
Yeah.
And he still does ESPN radio and a select few ESPN games on TV. So I don't know if it would be him, but I don't know. That's going to be wild, whoever they pick. Like,
and then for analysts, NBC could target Eduardo Perez or David Cohn.
Both ESPN and David Cohn's the Yes Network.
Or Smoltz or Darling.
Okay, so Darling is the Mets on SNY and on TBS, TNT. So WBD. And what was the other one you said?
John Smoltz.
Okay, so that's Fox and MLB Network.
What, though, Nick, would happen if... What were you saying last time about MLB Network?
Wait, what?
I mean, could they probably pull people from MLB Network probably that could perhaps make that jump?
They could, but...
Could a Matt Vasgersian maybe make that jump from MLB Network to NBC?
He's doing the Angels, right? Currently?
He only does select series when they're on the East Coast or... Maybe one from what I know, he only does a select amount of games because they got Wayne Rendazzo as their lead guy.
I think because they realized Vasgersian couldn't travel back and forth. It was too much travel because he was doing both at one point. He was doing a full schedule at one point. He also was the SMB booth with A-Rod for God knows how long. That booth was terrible. And Vasgersian forced A-Rod into the booth, essentially.
And then he also does the Tuesday night showcase game, I think, for MLB Network, too.
I think you're right. I don't know. There's a lot of choices. First of all, when baseball technically leaves ESPN, when there's no more national game, a lot of the talent's going to leave
Yes.
because what's the point of having coverage if you don't have a national game
Right.
anymore? Or at least it doesn't behooveth of the pinheads at ESPN to support financially if they don't have any games. So unless you're going to take like MLB.TV games and put them on the ESPN D2C package, but that's going to come from feeds of the game. They're not going to need
Right.
people for that. So I think ESPN's going to lose a lot of baseball talent. That's just my hunch.
I agree 100%. Let's see. And then trying to assemble a studio team for NBC. Let's see what they'll give us here. Because
I'm also going to be curious to see what happens to Passan.
he becomes probably the hot commodity. Him and Olney probably become the top two hot commodities that might leave ESPN.
Because why would you want to be the top insider for ESPN if there's no games?
Right. Unless
That
you
doesn't-
become unless you're going to be a local insider for one of those 5 teams that lost their TV deal.
That makes no sense.
No way, no how.
I could see him going to NBC, being insider there. I think they have Roto World and all that stuff under the NBC banner too.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so this is kind of intriguing, actually. So, based on search results, NBC, as we already said, is in the final stages of securing an Emily Wright's deal. Studio team has not been formally announced, but we can create a list of likely candidates based on network's current roster and state of the sports media landscape. Likely candidates, Nick, no surprise, Maria Taylor, Ahmed Fareed, and also Paul Brewmeister could also be one of them.
Who's Paul Brewmeister? I don't even know who that is.
Best known for his hosting roles on various NBC sports shows, Paul is a reliable and experienced choice for a studio role if needed.
It's not going to be It's not going to be Maria because she's already doing NBA. And what else was she? She was doing something else. Is she still doing the NFL or no?
NFL, NBA. Let's see.
And Fareed is taking part of the NBA on Peacock and college football and basketball.
And he is also doing EPL. By the way, Paul Brewmeister does work for NBC and the Olympics as a play-by-play voice and studio host across a wide variety of platforms, but also spent 10 years at NFL Network.
See, I've never heard of him. Like that tells you how much I've paid attention to him or NBC as a whole. But it can't be Maria. Maria's got 2 studio gigs already. And Hamid Fareed is already doing.
Okay, Nick. No wonder you probably don't know about Paul Brewmeister. Checking NBC Sports' press box, he is the studio host during NBC Sports' extensive coverage of the Tour de France.
Okay.
Play-by-play for the USFL.
Okay.
The All-American Bowl.
Like you're losing me. I wouldn't know most of
The
these
Bayou
events.
Classic and college basketball. Has also worked 5 Olympic Games and mainly does the ski jump play-by-play, and was also a play-by-play sideline reporter for the PLL this past season.
So it's a lot of the non-Big Four.
He also apparently was a co-host for PFT on NBCSN alongside Mike Florio.
Had no idea he did any of that stuff.
He also played for at Iowa in the 90s. Was also and also played or spent time with the Vikings, class of 97 from Iowa. Either way, those are the top 3 potential analyst candidates. They brought up David Cohn again, or even Mark DeRosa from MLB Network.
I think DeRosa's doing a morning show, so that really doesn't work.
He does a morning program, then David Cohn's got enough going on as is.
I mean, he's on the Yes Network broadcast. He's on the ESPN. Well, actually, that would make sense because he could still do the Yankee games.
Yeah.
And then maybe he could transition over to NBC and do Sunday Night Baseball there.
Oh, here's an interesting curveball, Nick. Internal promotions from NBC RSNs around the country.
So you're talking about local.
And one of them who could be promoted is former A's lefty Dallas Braden, who works for NBC Sports California.
I like him as a personality. I think he's a good personality. He would be funny in the booth on a national stage, I think.
Yeah. And
Um,
then other prominent names would probably have to come. Other names would have to come from a background of baseball, similar to how there's been a cross pollination for the NBA coverage on NBC.
I don't know. They have a lot of questions they got to answer and figure out, and it's not going to be an easy one. But they're probably working on it already.
I mean, either way, though, NBC is like what I mean. Other than maybe CBS with the NFL and Fox the NFL, NBC is kind of in a way doing this right now to CBS and Fox away from the NFL.
I mean, NBC's spending a shitload of money right now just trying to say, look, over here, me, right here. Look, we have sports.
Yeah, but Christie's right though, Nick. NBC is on a roll right now, and
They are.
I love though seeing somebody like them being aggressive in this changing media landscape. Where they've got your linear affiliate on cable, they've got Peacock backing, they've got the NFL, they've got the NBA, they got the Big Ten, they might be getting Major League Baseball, they've got the Kentucky Derby, they get the Super Bowl every few years. Like, what more can you not want if you're an NBC executive other than maybe adding one more to the portfolio, especially when you're going to be reviving the NBA on NBC after what, 25 years, 20 years?
I mean, you also have the Olympics. I mean, like,
And the Olympics have been a staple there for a long time away from ABC.
I'm just going to warn you guys now because we had the Olympics when this product was new. Was it last year or the year before? I can't even remember now.
Big
But
last year, yeah.
we got all the Olympic men's and women's basketball games on here. So don't be surprised because Playback is talking about making a deal with NBC. So think about all the rights that could come down the pike for games on NBC, whether that's NBA basketball, which they already have the blanket rights. So we are going to see NBC games anyway. But think about NFL, think about Olympics, think about what was it, Big 12?
Yeah. No, Big Ten. Big
Or
Ten.
Big 10.
And Notre Dame.
Well, Johnny's a Notre Dame fan, so that would be perfect for him. But
Well, they've been on NBC, I think, forever though.
do you remember because of them being a national championship is the first time they really aired on ESPN,
Yes.
which was awkward. But no, this is a no-brainer. Like, it's a serious no-brainer that NBC is starting to take it over. Fox is kind of looking,
Oh man.
and we're going to talk about Fox a little bit, but
I mean,
Fox-
honestly, if Fox were to lose the All-Star game in the Saturday night package, that would be like a bit of a slice of Americana kind of going away if that ever happened.
if who lost it?
If Fox lost Saturday night baseball and the All-Star game and the World Series and either the AL or NLCS.
Well, they do that, and I don't really like it, but the whip around coverage that they do on was it FS1 or on Fox? I just don't like it. It's not very well. That's the thing.
MLB Network Big Innings.
Well, MLB Big Innings because of MLB.TV. But
Yeah, and that's like a fill-in for them on a Tuesday usually.
I think they do it twice a week. I think. I'm not
Once or
sure.
twice, one of the two.
We've seen it before. It's actually, think of it as like NFL's Red Zone,
Yeah.
which maybe down the line.
Nick, as we get to the top of the hour, my man, I have to step out for just a second. But again, we had a great interview with Stan Verrett today. But more importantly, Nick, how about you tell the good folks about Playback?
Yeah, so we're having a good time. We just did a great interview with Stan Verrett. By the way, thank you, Stan. You were a great guy. We learned a lot. Your stories are fascinating. A lot of ways. The Stuart Scott story was great. We just had a really good time learning about your career, your new show, Stan and Neil's show, coming out September 9th. And it'll air on Tuesdays and Fridays on Twitch, and then come out on YouTube and other platforms. Speaking of YouTube, now that all the YouTube simulcasts are working, you will now see every show on the ETB Network Playback channel on our YouTube channel, including this one right now, youtube.com/ETB Network. Check it out. We are on there now. Hi, YouTube. Hi. So, and you saw our NFL draft. covered. This has been a marathon for me too, by the way.
We're almost there, Nick. We got another hour to go, then we'll be at the finish line.
But everything now on this channel is covered on the YouTube side, and Callan can prove it because I showed him pictures of it before. And it takes the name. It's no longer ETB Network Live.
That was the funniest part when Jen and I began doing Puck Talk on here, ETB Network live stream, and we couldn't change the title of it. It was so weird.
Well, I got to give them credit. They did a good job.
They
fixing
did.
it. And now you can tab over, and on the scheduled streams, you can now say, schedule the YouTube. You don't even have to do it when you click on anymore.
Finally, it's a miracle.
And all our game streams as well, you will see them. You might not see the games because that's not allowed, but
You at least see us.
you'll
Hi,
at least see
hello.
us. And they're talking about actually putting in some creative backgrounds like NBA courts. And so I heard that on the town hall earlier today. It would be nice if they would just get 24-hour passes. Yes, Miss Self-Promotion. I see you in the right corner down there.
Yes.
Puck Talk, Monday, September 1st, 6 p.m. Eastern. There might be a guest being efforted. I don't know yet.
Working on Labor Day. What else is new, baby?
Well, they don't call it Labor Day for a reason, right?
Exactly.
But playback.tv/ETB Network, youtube.com/ETB Network. We haven't really said it enough. We're over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So help us as we continue to grow. We need those watch hours. So this is good now that we're being simulcasted to YouTube, because once we're about 60% of the way to the watch hours, and then the ad revenue comes in where we could be dangerous.
So make a playlist, put it on loop, and yeah, go from there.
Help us
All
out.
right, Nick, let's get to the final hour of our program already, man. This show is flying by today, especially with having Stan here for the first hour, which was incredible. With that, though, Nick, in mind, the SEC is reportedly set to implement a brand new 9-game conference football schedule in 2026, with the announcement coming sometime soon. And this would change. This change would mean a higher number of conference matchups for all the teams, which has both the pros and the cons. The move would lead to more marquee games, but also make each team's schedule tougher, potentially hurting CFP chances. The SEC is also hoping the move will secure some kind of media right deal with broadcast partners as time goes on. So, Nick, in your mind, is the SEC's move to a 9-game conference schedule a smart one for the league? But what are the pros and cons, though, of the change, and what could it mean, though, for the future of college football with the SEC going this route next season?
It just means another conference game. That's really what it means.
Big deal.
It's more money. It's just like what the NFL did when they went from 16 to 17. I mean, and they eventually want to get to 18. Not that these guys are taking enough shit getting hit for all these games, but this is basically a money play. And they're also trying to even it out from the reports I read that everyone plays evenly across the conference. That's a big issue, not just for the SEC, but for every conference in
Especially with how big that, especially with the explosion of all these conferences in the last, 2 years?
And first of all, the only reason they are having to do all this nonsense is because everyone's switching conferences.
Right.
Like the Pac, like we've said this joke many times, the Pac-12 is not the Pac-12
It
anymore.
won't be next season.
They should call it the Pac East instead of the Pac-12. I mean, how many teams are going to be traveling from east to west and west to east? The Pac-12 is supposed to be the Pacific 12. That's really what Pac is, for
He
crying out
said it,
loud.
not me.
So it's, what do we talk about? Rutgers is technically part of the Pac-12 now,
I mean, so they say. No, they're in the Big Ten.
or the Big Ten, but they were saying that they're gonna move because it makes them more money.
Or the
Yes.
running joke out here was Stanford and Cal being in the ACC. That stands for All Coast Conference now.
Exactly. I mean, and by the way, if I have to hear Paul Feinbaum scream one more time about the SEC and like how no one cares about Michigan and blah 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 blah, shut up, Paul. You're a bald-faced idiot. Paul Feinbaum, as big as an SEC bias as I've ever seen in my life, and Zan could tell it to you too. It's just crazy how much SEC bias there is, and that's why they're going to a 9-game conference. They're going to say it's because they were able to even out the schedule. Come on, guys! You one extra game means more money across the conference.
I mean, does that mean we have one more turd of a game where Vanderbilt plays plays Tennessee again, or Because I think, Nick, that with the scheduling formula for the Pac-12 this season, which is still that working deal with the Mountain West for one more year, I believe the Cougars and the Beavers play each other twice, home and home in football this season, which in a way you would never see happen in a football season. To be, in Corvallis one year, then go to Pullman the following season. I think, though, that you're right, Nick, that the SEC is just looking for a bit more cachet. But I also think that they're also thinking about, um, in the long run, I think they're looking, though, about this only matters for college football seating because we have to have a team or two or three or four half the field be an SEC affiliated member school. Or I think adding a ninth game throws a bit of a wrinkle. I think, though, Nick, more importantly, if you go to a 9-game conference schedule, why does it, in a way, to me, feel like, though I have really no knowledge of FBS football, I work in FCS football, but why do I feel like, though, this kind of, in a way, begins to erase the need for a college football for a conference title game now all of a sudden?
Well, I think they're just trying to find the best games they can get on the schedule, regardless of whether there's a conference game or not. Now, on the SEC going to 9 games in 2026, Greg Sankey called it a commitment to having the quote most competitive football schedule in the nation.
Are
right,
we sure about that though? When there's quite a few bottom dwellers in that conference.
Like, can we stop? Like, you're just saying that because you don't want to admit that you want more money. I mean, like, so it says adding a ninth SEC game underscores our university's commitment to delivering the most competitive football schedule in the nation. That's from SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey. This format protects rivalries, increases competitive balance, and paired with our requirement to play an additional power opponent. Oh, I forgot about that. That's one of the reasons that they added it, because they wanted to add an additional power opponent.
Okay. Like an extra non-conference game in a way?
Yeah. So it says under the new format, the SEC will continue to play without divisions. Each school will play 3 annual opponents focused on maintaining traditional rivalries, and the remaining 6 games will rotate among the rest of the league opponents.
So now, OU, Texas, Bama, Georgia, Bama, Auburn, Vanderbilt, Tennessee.
It's very wordy, in my opinion. Can't they just say they want more money? Can we just, like, you're promoting it as better competition. No one cares about competition. They care about the bottom line dollars that come out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it really would lead to more marquee games unless you're going to talk about the final week of the year where you've got the rivalry games. You got the Iron Bowl or Georgia playing Bama, or you've got Tennessee Vanderbilt or Tennessee playing Bama, OU Texas, Florida playing somebody. I think it's more of a thing that maybe they're trying, Nick, in some way to get competitive balance in the SEC. But when you have like, and I feel like, and I think, Nick, that you and I would agree. Again, I don't watch a lot of college football, but I think even the common man knows that the SEC is a very much top heavy football conference. I mean, you've got Bama, you've got Georgia, you got Florida when they're actually playing good football. Tennessee can kind of be up there. But like after, I'd say maybe the top 5 or 6. I mean, Texas is obviously up there too. But after the top 6, like there's not a whole lot really there that really screams like, oh my God, I got to watch.
Well, there was another rule that was interesting too when I read this, was that the SEC teams are still required to schedule at least one additional high quality non-conference opponent from the ACC, Big 10, or Big 12 conferences or Notre Dame each season.
So that, in a way, is kind of like kind of goes to like the CFP qualification rule, is you have to play these 3 conferences plus Notre Dame.
Yeah. The SEC will continue to evaluate its policies to ensure the continuous scheduling of non-conference opponents from the Power Four. Several ACC athletic directors told ESPN they see no reason traditional ACC SEC rivalries will be impacted, but future schedule gives that the SEC could be canceled.
Interesting.
ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips said his league is not planning to move from its 8-game conference schedule at this time. Sankey said on the Paul Feinbaum show,
oh gosh,
that the 2026 schedule will be released later this fall. He added that the college football playoffs decision to use enhanced strength of schedule metrics played into the decision to expand the conference schedule.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I believe that.
I really don't either. I'm trying to pull up one of the SEC schedules. I'm going to pull up Bama's here in just a moment. Now, I agree. It feels like one more game for some more money, and we'll call it a day.
Right, and it says the CFP has made progress, but we're not at perfection as to how strength of schedule will be used in selection process.
Now, see, I don't know if, I mean, Nick, do you really think that an odd number of games would really move the needle in that sense for an SEC school, especially if you're like kind of closer in the running to maybe win the conference title or get into the playoff field?
I don't think it does. I don't
I
think
don't
it
think so either.
matters. First of all, the SEC has played 8 conference games each season since 1992.
Okay, here we go. So let me read off the Alabama football schedule and let's kind of see what we can find out here. So opening day, Saturday, tied at Florida State. So there's your ACC school.
Okay.
Home opener, Louisiana Monroe.
Yuck.
September 13th, Wisconsin. There's your Big Ten school.
Okay.
First SEC game at Georgia.
Okay.
Vanderbilt
I mean, it doesn't sound bad so far.
at Mizzou.
Okay.
Tennessee at home.
Okay.
At South Carolina. Non-conference.
Non-conference. Okay.
ACC. Or that's another. No, aren't they in the SEC? No, they are in the SEC. Never mind.
SEC.
Yeah, sorry. LSU.
Again, they're not. It doesn't sound bad except for that Monroe game, but
Oklahoma.
okay.
Eastern Illinois.
Well, ask Zan about that. He'd have more to say about that than we would.
Iron Bowl.
Ugh.
At
That's
Auburn.
bad. Oh, okay. That's not bad.
So their
Schedule
final
doesn't
game.
sound bad.
The final game is, as you said, rivalry, traditional rivalry. Auburn. Final game.
The only
So
one
in
that-
a way, though, but in a way, with this, with what you said about this new like scheduling matrix, Big 10, Big 12, SEC. Well, obviously they're in the SEC, but Big 10, Big 12, or Notre Dame, they fulfilled that quota by playing the Badgers and fulfilled it by playing Florida State with the ACC.
But that's the problem now. It's no longer a scheduling process. It's what you just said, filling a quota. It's no longer about how do we make the best games. It's how do we fulfill the recommendation, or not recommendation, qualification to fit the rules.
That's all it is.
Oh, well.
And there's even a story says that Alabama making adjustments to future football schedules too.
All right. Can we stop adjusting the football schedules?
I
Please.
think this is for it says for future seasons. So are they like tweaking? Oh, it's right. Bama, West Virginia cancel home and home. East Carolina University added for 2026.
Oh, God.
Part of the release reads, with the announcement of a 9-game SEC football schedule beginning in 2026, Alabama is making adjustments to its pre-existing non-conference matchups. Both the Tide and the Mountaineers have mutually agreed to cancel the home and home series, which was supposed to begin in Morgantown, West Virginia in 2026, with the Mountaineers making the return trip to Tuscaloosa the following season. The Crimson Tide's future football slate is now East Carolina, who will come to Tuscaloosa in 2026.
First of all, I don't know where all this home and home nonsense that you could agree to put teams on your schedule and you pay them off. That's, first of all, that's more of a college basketball thing than it is a college football thing. But when did this become like church and state? That like you could just decide, oh, I'm going to put these teams on I could agree to a home and home with this team and a home and home with this team. What do you need? What do you need?
Like what?
What do you need schedulers for anymore then?
Exactly.
If you're just going to agree to home and homes, why don't you just talk to every team and say, oh, I'll play you and I'll play you. I'm good.
So right now, by the way, their futures opponent, Nick, go 10 years into the future for Bama football. But they have, though, fulfilled the quota, as we've been saying. So Florida State, Wisconsin this year. Florida State, TBD, or Florida State, East Carolina next season. They go to Columbus in 27, unknown opponent there. 28, OSU at Oklahoma State. 29, at Notre Dame, Oklahoma State. 30, at Georgia Tech, Notre Dame at home. 31, Georgia Tech at home at Boston College, ACC. 32, Arizona, Minnesota, Big 12, Big 10. 23, U of A goes to, they go to Arizona. They host Minnesota. 34, at Virginia Tech, Boston College. 35, Va Tech at home. But again, only to fulfill the quota of what the conference wants now.
See, that's not what football should be. That's not what any
Stupid.
sport should be. It should be the schedules make the schedule, and that's it. I don't want to hear, well, we fulfilled the stupid quota to put teams on the schedule.
Where's
Like-
my cookie?
Yeah, seriously. Where's the juice in my cookie? Like, just like enough. Just let the schedules do their job. Like, stop. Like, what's next? Are we just going to AI every schedule? Or, you know what? Even better, that randomizer I used to create our NFL draft, draft order. Oh, shut up, Watch. I wasn't talking to you. But I'm saying, what's next? We should just put all the teams in a randomizer and just say you all are playing each other. Let's randomize it 10 times, and whatever comes out on top, you play those teams.
Attention, everybody! Run for your lives! Robots taking over the world! Our world!
Squidward, the robots have taken over the Navy.
Not the Navy! All right, Nick, are you ready to dive into some WNBA drama again?
My favorite.
Well, this is actually a follow-up, not much drama, but a follow-up to, again, Sarah Barber, Nick, had talked about this and really, I think, hit the nail on the head, though, during Sarah Says So a couple weeks ago. But a follow-up, though, to the ongoing WNBA dildo gate has finally been reached, Nick. 3 men have been arrested in connection with what has been dubbed Dildo Gate. The incident has obviously raised a number of questions about fan misconduct and behavior in sports, and also the league's ability to protect their players. Again, this happened at 3 different games within a week of each other in Atlanta, in New York, and in Los Angeles, where, again, we've had fans get hit by these objects. Players were hit by these objects. It was all part of an ongoing cryptocurrency scheme that also, as Nick even told me in Slack, has also been at golf tournaments. It's been at NFL games. And stuff of that nature. So, Nick, let's start here, though, with this follow-up, though. Obviously, this has been a very weird story for the fact of, okay, objects being thrown at a sporting event is one thing. But this, though, I think, though, Nick, went on its head because we heard the commentary from Lynx head coach Cheryl Reeve. Sarah has obviously beat this dead horse, though, to her credit, though, on her show, though, on Fridays here on ETB, on the YouTube platform. We've talked about this, though, in length, though, about these 3 incidents. So again, it was a prank, and I think, though, that the 18-year-old kid who was arrested in Phoenix, where it also happened, admitted, though, that he felt bad that he took part in a prank, regarding this whole thing. But Nick, this is the first part of the story, though. Your overall thoughts, though, about at least that something came out of this, though. But why do I feel like this is a little bit too much, though, at the end of the day, though, when it's come to a full year ban, though, from all 13 league arenas across the league?
Who's that in the chat? Okay. I'll let you deal with that since you usually deal with that.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like, Nick, that it's one thing that objects get thrown. I mean, we know about, Jen, you know very well, hat tricks in hockey is one thing. We know about octopi in Detroit. We know about catfish in Nashville. We know about a lot of different things going on. But, Nick, this one, though, is a little bit different, I think. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so do I think an arrest? Can you get rid of that guy, please?
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know, Nick, where we go from here. So,
yeah, I'll answer that while you're doing that. But
yeah, go ahead.
The dildo gate thing is kind of stupid in this regard when it comes to how they have rules. Oh my God. What is this guy doing?
Go ahead, Nick. I got it.
Okay. So basically, do I think an arrest was going a little too far? What is... Okay, I'm getting distracted by
I got it, Nick.
Okay,
go on.
Sorry. Basically, do I think they should have been arrested? No. Do I think they should have been like suspended, thrown out of games for a temporary period of time? Yes. But I don't think the league reacted to this properly. And I think the way that they could have handled this was way better. Talk to these people. What was the reasoning? What was the why did you do it? Why did you feel it was okay? First of all, why did the objects make it in?
Or let alone, as Sarah's been saying, though, Nick, and we all have said, how did this happen?
So I don't know. Like, basically, it's a weird situation. And what are you supposed to do in this situation? Because why isn't security stopping the items from coming in? That's the first question I would ask. Second, the people who throw the objects are not off the hook. Let me be very clear
No,
about
they're
that.
not. They've all been arrested in some way.
So, but I think an arrest was a little extreme, if you ask me.
And by the way, to clarify, I think the fan who threw the object in New York, I believe, turned himself into the police after they. I think a story broke about it, and I think he went and told the police, "Yeah, it was me."
I mean, the person who threw the object and it hit the girl, the 12 or 13-year-old, was it a 12 or 13-year-old girl?
And I
think
believe that was either in Phoenix or in Los Angeles.
that one is dumb. Like, and I'm not talking about from a WNBA standpoint. I'm talking about from that idiot throwing that object and hitting a 12 or 13-year-old girl. There's no tolerance for that whatsoever. I don't give a shit who you are. That, first of all, that's like child indecency a little bit, you ask me. But that person should be arrested for hitting a 12, 13-year-old child with a dildo. But the other ones, these are all security measures, if you ask me. Why weren't they controlled so that they didn't happen? So the WNBA's got to take some blame for this, partially, because they didn't do anything to prevent this problem from happening. And people are complaining like they didn't, what was it, a Sparks game?
Yes.
Where it came flying on the court and the ref didn't even blow the whistle to stop play.
And Christy refers to it because I believe that was the game where Sophie Cunningham got hit by the object. And I think she put out day before, I hope it doesn't happen. And then she quote tweeted it and said, "This aged very well."
Didn't Kelsey Plum get hit with one also?
I believe she may have gotten hit by one too. Yes.
So, hey, Kathy, where are you? How about some rules?
No, I care more about buying the Connecticut Sun for the league. To clarify, also real quick, Nick, that Cheryl Reeve, who is the Lynx head coach, addressed the matter at hand back in earlier this month, and she spoke out about it. And the quote reads in part that Reeve commented on the action, stating that the sexualization of women, which has been going on for centuries, is used to hold women down, and these acts of what we had seen go down are no different. She further stated that the act should not be the subject of jokes and that action needs to be taken. The trend of throwing the lime green sex toys on the WNBA playing courts had been occurring at multiple games, with a crypto group claiming responsibility, with Coach Reeve noting further that the objects being thrown endangers the players and other figures in the league, also condemned the action. So, I mean, Nick, where did she miss?
No, she's absolutely right. But is the commissioner of the sport going to do anything
about
it?
And Nick, if it has to come to it, you start having security frisk everybody when they come into the arena, whether they set up the metal detectors or not.
I mean, I know some schools in New York City that have metal detectors because they're so afraid of even young kids walking in with guns into a school. I mean, heck, we just had another incident in Minnesota.
Yes.
In a Catholic school, for crying out loud. I mean, if we have to do security checks and it takes, an extra 10 or 15 minutes to start a game?
If that.
Then, or open the gates earlier if you have to do that. So, the league's got to step up and help. They just want to punish every fan rather than say, maybe we have an issue that we're not solving either, where why is the security not stopping the objects? Does that mean they're not doing their job as security?
And Christy, I think, says it right, that sadly nowadays, Nick, nowhere is safe in 2025.
It's the world we live in.
It is the world we live in. Exactly. Nick, we'll stay in women's sports, though, but in a league that we really don't talk a whole lot about, but I'm also a big backer of, is the NWSL, who also came under fire recently for not postponing a match between the top two teams in the league, the Orlando Pride and the Kansas City Current, despite extreme heat-related weather conditions in Kansas City. With a unnamed source, Nick, telling the media that the league was afraid of losing millions of dollars that they missed the broadcast window for this marquee matchup between the Pride and the Current, which again was last year's NWSL final that saw the Pride beat the Current last season for the league championship. Obviously, Nick, I was at the San Diego Wave Racing Louisville match on Sunday at Snapdragon Stadium. It was 84 degrees. The sun was relenting, and it was awful going there. And I had been there the night before for the SDFC Portland Timbers match, even at a 7:30 p.m. local time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern start, Nick. It was hot. It was sticky. The players were drenched because of the on-field conditions. And then you go to the game the following day. It's a 2-hour earlier start at 5 o'clock local time, 8 o'clock Eastern, and the sun is just bearing down on you as you enter the stadium. And where I was sitting, the sun was not fully behind the western stands yet because the stadium was built open air with no shade basically along that sideline of the stadium. So Nick, in this way though, is I think I recall hearing that the league waited 3.5 hours to let the weather die down to then start the game. Like they didn't start the game and then go into like hydration breaks or pull the teams off the field. I think they waited 3.5 hours, if not longer or less, before they kicked off this Pride Current match over the weekend. And the weather was beyond inhumane at CPKC Park down there in Kansas City. So, Nick, what responsibility though do both leagues, both the W with Dildo Gate and the NWSL, have to protect players and fan safety when faced with strange fan incidents or extreme weather like this? And what does it say about the future of sports that broadcast revenue is being prioritized over player health and safety, along with that of the fans too who are at the game?
I'll go back to a point I made before. It's all about the bottom line. Again, like they waited 3.5 hours because you think they were going to give up the revenue that was involved in the game? No, they got to sell those $25 waters. They got to sell those the fan merch and the food and all that stuff at this soccer game. By the way, if it takes 3.5 hours for the heat, but
There was a story that I just saw from the Times, Nick, last week. Commissioner Jessica Berman threatened to fine the Current over the weather delay if they did not play the game.
what?
That is per The Athletic and the New York Times last week. And apparently, The Guardian is also reporting that the league actually tweaked the heat policy the day of the match.
You can't do that.
So, real quick, so 3 NWSL writers for The Athletic write, the National Women's Soccer League's commissioner, Jessica Berman, threatened to fine the Kansas City Current after a dispute happened over extreme heat procedures that delayed a match against Orlando Pride by roughly 3.5 hours on Saturday, per multiple sources being briefed on the matter told The Athletic. Both teams were concerned about the extreme heat. The league wanted the game to proceed when possible so it could be televised in that window's time slot.
What I
The
told you.
source, yeah, the sources then spoke, remaining anonymous, of course, said that Commissioner Berman told Current ownership in a phone call that the team could be fined for breaking protocols by asking for a heat check after the league decided to go forward with the game. Commissioner Berman further said, per sources, that missing the scheduled broadcast window would have cost the league millions of dollars. The top-ranked Current were set to host the reigning NWSL champs for a 3 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Pacific time kickoff, which was supposed to be on CBS. But with the heat exceeding 90 degrees Fahrenheit an hour before the match, it delayed kickoff till 6:28 Central, when temperature readings from the game or from the field level registered below 92.3 degrees Fahrenheit per the league policy. Despite that, the match ended in a 0-0 draw. The league
Wait.
also did not.
What is the temperature that it can't go over?
I'm guessing it can't go over. I'm guessing 93.
Because you said what? 92.3 was the temperature?
Yeah, so apparently the heat, which exceeded 90 degrees Fahrenheit an hour before the game, delayed kickoff till 6:28 Central Time, when temperature readings from the field registered below 92.3 degrees per league policy. So it has to be under 92.3 degrees Fahrenheit on the field for the match to start.
So what was the actual temperature?
I'm guessing it's below that because it says that the game
Was this
kicked
story? So the story came out a day ago. They're saying the other temperature threshold mentioned in the old policy is 95, and in the new policy, all of the temperatures mentioned as a threshold temperature at 92.3 degrees.
Jeez.
So if it's over 92.3 degrees, they should have stopped.
Mm-hmm. They could have kicked. What they could have done, before we move on here, what they could have done was easily start the match, and you have built-in hydration breaks. I think it's minute 25, roughly.
Oh, is that how it works? Okay.
Yeah, and if they could have made a concession, I think, to add in a couple more as the game more. Now again, the match was a 0-0 draw, but the photo though of players who cramped up and the pickle juice being drank and all the stretching. I mean, you're talking about, Nick, though it's a grass field though in Kansas City, you're still asking for so much trouble with that happening by not moving the game when the weather lightens up.
I mean, I'm just trying to read. Like the Guardian did a story on it also.
That they had tweaked the policy.
Right. And according to this, they say they had a rare TV audience on CBS. I'm sorry, that's bull crap.
Yeah, not at. I mean, not at. I mean, okay, maybe at 4 o'clock Eastern on a Saturday, but no.
They're claiming that they were willing to risk players' health over national TV money.
Millions of dollars.
First of all, that is the biggest lie. And don't get me wrong, I love women's sports, and I'm glad that the direction is trending up on it. But I can tell you right now, it's not millions of dollars.
No.
If it was millions of dollars, they would have found another place to play the game.
Or they would have postponed the match and kept the window for like the next day. I don't know.
I mean, this says also 16 people were treated for heat-related injuries at CPKC Stadium, and one person was transported to a hospital.
That exact thing happened when Snapdragon Stadium opened up for SDSU football. It was 108 degrees at kickoff. The game went on, but no fans were in the stands because there was no shade built at Snapdragon. They all were in the shade underneath the concourses.
It says afterward, Orlando head coach Seb Hines said things should have been handled differently, with both teams made to repeatedly come out into the heat and warm up before kickoff was delayed again.
Yeah, but see, I don't like that. You make them warm up, then you have them tell them to go back and sit in the locker room. They get cold. You do it all over again. Yeah, that was a botched operation, sadly, for the NWSL, and that rarely happens in that league, Nick. But man, that's not a good thing to be had by the NWSL.
I want to know also this Jessica Berman. She's the commissioner, of the NWSL. It also says, by the way, the National Weather Service issued a heat advisory. So I don't know if that's how they take things into account.
You would think so.
The report also stated that the commissioner threatened Kansas City with a fine. You're threatening a fine over people's health?
Yeah, I don't like that whatsoever. Please.
That's stupid.
Nick, let's move on here. We're already down to the last couple topics before we get to our press clippings and we get out of here for the night. Nick, in Major League Baseball, ESPN insider Jeff Passan recently shared that he believes that Nashville is what he called a quote-unquote shoo-in for potential league expansion. Via a podcast appearance, Jeff said that the city's financial backing, corporate support, and rabid fan base, plus ownership involving former A's pitcher Dave Stewart, makes it the most logical choice for the next MLB franchise. This also comes as Commissioner Rob Manfred, has consistently said that the league is focusing on expansion after the A's are in Vegas and the Rays get their new ballpark stadium situation resolved. So, Nick, with Jeff Passan believing that Nashville is a quote-unquote shoo-in, what makes this a perfect city in your mind for a professional baseball team, and which other markets are in the running in your opinion?
Is Nashville the perfect place for an MLB team?
I think when you already have a name and a logo and ownership ready to go and ballpark plans drafted up, I kind of feel like you're kind of a shoo-in.
The weird part is I don't think of Nashville as a baseball city, though.
You think of them for the Titans. I think of them for the Predators in the NHL. Growing soccer fan base, brand new Titan Stadium coming very soon. Tennessee Volunteer Football, though that's
college
Knoxville,
sports.
College sports town, country music.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why they want baseball there. Outdoors, country scene, barbecue, maybe.
Oh yeah,
Like that's what I'm thinking. But like, I thought I heard Dombrowski was involved in that ownership
I
too.
feel like he is. I'm going to double check their group.
But
Because, by the way, the team name is the Stars right now, in case you're curious.
oh god, that's terrible.
I think the name though is coming from a franchise who played in the Negro Leagues, I believe, back in the day.
But what would it be called? The Nashville Stars?
Yeah, the Nashville Stars ownership group is known as Music City Baseball, or MCB, led by former professional pitcher Dave Stewart and former U.S. Attorney General Albert Gonzalez. The group
Oh
is
god.
working to establish a new MLB expansion team called the Nashville Stars in honor of the historic Negro League franchise. The initiative also features a partnership with the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City and a diverse equity ownership component. Other than that, they also have a partnership with Lincoln Property Company. A partnership has been formed to secure entitlements and a location for a new mixed-use development property and multi-purpose venue for the potential MLB franchise. There's also support too from Grizzlies minority owner Justin Timberlake.
Really? I just don't know if Nashville is a baseball city though. Like
And
that.
they have had minor league ball though there for a long time with the Brewers AAA club being there though.
Right, but is it a Major League Baseball national city?
I mean, we probably could have said the same thing about them being a football, an NFL market or an NHL market or an MLS market too.
Yeah, but the NFL, the Titans have been around forever. Predators have been
Oilers.
around. Oilers, right? I don't know. I don't think of them as a baseball city. Like, first of all, wouldn't you need another team to even it out?
Yeah, and that would be probably Portland or somewhere. Probably Portland, Oregon is probably the next spot they're saying.
But is expansion really the answer when they can't get fans to watch?
No, I think they're only Nick doing it to try to stay in line with the other leagues.
But you're going to go from what, 32 to 34? I mean,
Well, it'd be from 30 to 30.
I
It'd
mean,
be from 30 to 32.
I mean, 30 to 32. You can't. You're having an issue.
It would either in my opinion, it would either be Oregon or Portland, or it would be Salt Lake City. Dale Murphy's a part of the group in Salt Lake City.
I mean, that kind of makes sense.
That gives the Rockies a regional rival.
Oh God, and no one cares about the Rockies. I don't know. Baseball needs to get its fan base back watching games before they start expanding. Like, you ever heard of you have to build a fan base and build a product before you can expand upon
And
it?
by the way, the group for Portland, I'm pulling up their website. It's called the Portland Diamond Project, or the PDP is the name of the group. And they have an update that Senate Bill 110 passed overwhelmingly in the state Senate to support the ballpark project for Portland baseball.
Does it say who's part of it or no?
Let's see. Sign a petition. I don't want to do that. I don't see it. They have a logo, which is an Old English P for their branding. Let's see. Trying to see who's a part of the group here. They also talk about all the Portland baseball teams who play there, like the Beavers used to play where the Portland Timbers soccer team now plays. Russell Wilson appears to be one of the investors of the project.
Interesting.
Other than that, I really can't tell who else is part of the group. But I think it would be either Portland or Salt Lake City for the West, and then Nashville would be for the East.
East/Central. But I guess Nashville makes sense because of the country scene.
And I mean, it's kind of close to Atlanta in a way.
So I guess, but you're going to need a second team. So I don't think there has to be one right behind it.
Oh, here we go. Leadership team and key investors for the project. Let's see. Yeah, Music Row. The old what's the old
Grand Ole
Opry?
Grand
The
Ole
Grand Ole Opry is there. Okay, so leadership team and key investors for the Portland project include Craig Cheek, who has worked with Nike. Mike Barrett, who has been a fixture of Northwest Sports Media. Jed Lowry, former player.
Yep.
Garwin Royer, who is a real estate guru for over 30 years up in the Pac Northwest. Jennifer Arganzoni Ward, who is the public affairs officer for PDP. Real estate partner Kevin Vandenbrink. who has real estate strategy, acquisitions, and future partnerships. Liz Fuller, Matt Rodelsilly, Sierra, and Russell Wilson, co-owners and investors.
That's interesting. Okay.
I mean, not really much of a surprise though for her and him because they already have like ownership of the Seattle Sounders. I think they have ownership of the Blazers. I want to say too with the Paul Allen estate, even though that got sold to Tom Dundon a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. That it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But
And then
Get-
let me pull up Salt Lake City because I think Dale Murphy's a part of the group for Salt Lake City baseball.
I just feel like
Um,
baseball's trying to expand too fast when they're having
I
an
think
issue
'cause I
keeping
think
fans.
they gave like what 6 markets.
Yeah.
Oh. Big League Utah is being led by the former owners of the Utah Jazz, the Miller family, and the MSE ownership, and also by David Blitzer.
Why does that name sound familiar?
David Blitzer, I believe, is another owner somewhere else in sports. Why do I think he's involved with? Yes. And the Larry H. Miller Company is the original owners of the Utah Jazz, I believe.
So it says Blitzer is an American investor and sports team owner. Blitzer is the chairman of private equity from Blackstone's Tactical Opportunities Division, managing partner of the Devils in hockey,
That's, yes.
and the Sixers.
So Blitzer has his hand in this one with MSE for a potential ball club in Salt Lake City, which, by the way, Miller Sports Entertainment and Big League Utah, I believe, own the Angel AAA club at the Bees up there in Salt Lake City.
Blitzer was also the co-founder of Harris's group, the one
Yes,
that owns the Devils, the
Sixers, the Commanders.
So he's a big wig in Harris. So it's called Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment.
Salt Lake City is a strong candidate for expansion, leveraging its population growth, young demographics, and robust economy to attract a franchise.
I don't know. I think there's a much bigger issue in baseball before expansion.
I agree.
How do they keep people watching? How do
TV.
how do they make their demo younger?
How do they how do they try to get some parity involved with the game when it comes to spending?
Mm-hmm.
With that in mind, Nick, we'll move on to our final topic here before we get to press clippings. Jay Billis sounded off recently, Nick, about suggesting that high non-conference or huge non-conference college basketball games should be moved to January or February before you start March Madness. Jay made the argument that playing these games in the middle of a season would make the regular season more meaningful and provide a better television product. The current trend is to play these high-profile games mainly, though, in November and December, while saving conference games and tournaments for the back half of the year. So, Nick, with you and I both being in and working in and being college basketball fans, we have Jay Billis wanting more or to move marquee non-conference games for basketball to the middle of the season. Is it a great idea that will save the regular season, or does it take away some of the drama and excitement of the start of the regular season?
No, I actually think this is good because move up the big games that gets them ready for March Madness.
I
mean,
like it.
Because why waste the big games and the conference games towards the beginning of the year? Who gives a crap then once you get through January, February to get to March Madness? If you make more games more important closer to March Madness, that's more anticipation heading into March Madness and watching those games. So this is a no-brainer in my book.
Slam dunk.
I mean, Jay's on it. Like, why would you put the biggest games of the entire schedule in the front? That's like taking like the stupid NBA formats now. That's like taking which one is it? The Gold Cup
tournament, the in-season tournament.
Taking the in-season tournament and just playing all the games in the front and not doing anything.
Right.
How boring would that be?
Yeah, and not having it be where it is like in November and December, where it's kind of like the slow season, where baseball's ending, football's taking over, hockey's taking over, and then the NBA wants to, kind of in a way say, hey, we're still here, with this, with the IST going on in November and in December.
Right. I mean, this is not the same example, but think about like taking the trade deadline in baseball, moving it up to the first month of the year.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that if that
No
happened?
way, no how.
Like, you have to think about placement in seasons. Putting the biggest games of the year at the beginning of the season, then people are going to be like, all right, they're over. Now I just have to wait till March.
Yeah, that would just be so weird. I mean, I'm for this. I mean, now the only thing though I would hate to see though, Nick, and the reason why I would probably say keep it how it is, then we're losing like the Maui Invite, the Diamond Head Classic around Christmas, and all of the big marquee events that would bring money to ESPN away from college football. That'd be like the only downside, I think, though. But if you're able though to make it work, Nick, I look at UConn women's basketball, for example. They schedule Tennessee or South Carolina smack dab in the middle of the Big East Conference schedule because they know there's not a lot of competition in the Big East, sadly. Maybe outside of Creighton and a couple other programs like Rutgers, maybe. But that's how you get yourself prepared. If you can somehow, some way swing a deal, if you are Michigan, maybe, and get like Kansas to come play you in New Year's Day to kind of get you ready or in that rhythm. I think you could do that. I mean, now would it probably have to be like done like be done like a year or two in advance? So like yeah, we talked about earlier in the with the SEC adding that 9-game schedule, but we went through how Alabama has already put out future opponents for 10 years down the road, though, but fulfilled that quota. But I think if you can schedule, like if you're Kansas or if you are Florida, why not rematch? Why not have a rematch with Houston? Play them in Gainesville or in Houston to get you ready for when for when March Madness does roll around. So I think, honestly, Nick, I think we're all in favor with this one, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you want games that are anticipatory leading up to March Madness. If you don't put those games in, what's the point of watching from January until March?
Yeah.
Which leads up. This is the issue we have in baseball, where they don't put enough big games leading into the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. Padres Dodgers already done for the year in August. Next season, though, Padres Dodgers end the year in LA the last week of the regular season. They got that right finally.
I mean, I remember when Yankees Red Sox would be big series every year in end of September or early October. I mean, they got that right almost every year when those two teams were battling one another.
And then once you go to interleague play, you shrink the number of divisional games, you really lose people.
Biggest mistake of all time. Going full interleague, taking conference away. Same thing here. In a sense, because you have to play all the divisions and all the conferences, you're taking away all the big games. On a college basketball perspective, I want to see Duke and North Carolina
every damn year.
That's what I want to see. I don't want to see these dumb matchups. No offense to the other small schools, but like, give me the. Wouldn't you want to see Duke and UNC leading up into March Madness?
Oh, like, without a doubt. I mean, I can obviously watch like for example, Gonzaga play St. Mary's.
Yeah.
Or Gonzaga play San Francisco, like that. Until Zaga leaves for the Pac-12 next season. But like watching like a San Diego State play Boise, for example, out here where I live in SoCal. USC, UCLA. I don't care to watch USC and Michigan for basketball, for heaven's sakes, when they're in the Big Ten. So, I mean, I think Jay Billis, Nick, might be onto a point that I think, Nick, like I said, Gino's got this right. Pat Summitt had this right. They would play each other like in the middle of either Big East or American Athletic Conference play, or during conference play, schedule that big game.
I'll give you another one. St. John's Seton Hall or St. John's Villanova. I mean, like,
absolutely.
Like, give me those games, or give me Georgia and UConn. Like, give me something that make me sink my teeth in. Because again, like, I'm still learning college basketball a little bit more. I like watching it, but like, I like watching the tournament. Give me the anticipatory matchups so I know what I'm watching going into March Madness.
Yeah, like have some kind of storyline at least. That's all I can ask for. All right, Nick, let's get into the final topics here, my man. The press clippings. We've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them that we cannot get to in their full entirety for the evening's program. Again, shout out once more to Stan Verrett, who, again, spent the first hour of the program with us talking about his 25 years at ESPN. Nick, speaking of the aforementioned Oaklamento Athletics, and their $2 million project in Las Vegas is beginning to take shape. The team recently made an announcement about a week-long home series at the AAA ballpark, home of their AAA club with the Vegas Aviators next season, involving them playing Milwaukee and Colorado, as they have begun to put some concrete in, some rebar is up, as they look to still keep that 2028 opening date on track. Nick, who really cares?
This means nothing. I mean, you and I read a story from Front Office Sports the other day that like some of the important scheduling things. Oh, that the A's are going to play 2 series in a AAA Las Vegas ballpark. Why don't you just play there?
You're already doing it as is. What the hey, people?
Just go to Vegas. It's probably a bigger ballpark, and you don't have to have your press conferences in a tool shed.
In a tough shed.
I mean, this is so bad. Why am I forgetting the owner's name again?
John Fisher.
John Fisher. John Fisher. Was he the Levi guy or something? Was that his?
The Gap.
Oh, Gap. Whatever. Same difference. This guy is such an asshole. Like he took on free minor league ballpark. That's why he went there. Oh, well, I'm a billionaire. Oh, I took on a free ballpark from my friend Lottie Divac.
Yes.
Talk about clueless.
Like, okay, they've done this during spring training. That's fine and dandy. But why regular season games? Now I did say at one point when this program was on a different platform, I said at least go there and tell people, in the words of Deion Sanders, we coming. You're not coming anywhere in the AOS standings right now, but at least get the name, get the logo, get the team out there and say, hey, come watch our guys play, in 3 years' time at this new ballpark at the old side of the Tropicana.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. First of all, MLB had some rotten luck this year between certain ballparks, with Tropicana obviously getting destroyed by the hurricane, and hopefully they're going to be back playing there next season. That's the goal.
I believe they said, before we move on to our next clipping, Nick, that they're going to have a 9-game road trip to start the season, and then their home opener will be at Tropicana Field next season.
It's probably just the timing of it that they need to get it done. But at least they're going to be back in their ballpark. I would take Tropicana Field all day over a stupid minor league ballpark in Sacramento.
Exactly. Nick, in media news, real quick, Fox and YouTube TV finally repaired the damage of the ongoing carriage dispute. The deal that was reached just before a blackout was set to occur ensures that subscribers will not lose access to Fox and the Big Ten Network, a crucial development just before the college football season starts. Nick, why does this always happen before a football season begins?
I was just going to say, I was going to repeat what you've said to me many times.
It doesn't happen for any other sport but college and the NFL every season.
It's true, because obviously these leagues want to be paid. Now, it's a little different this time because the leagues have made their deals, so there's really no leveraging upon current TV, what's the word I'm looking for? TV rating,
Revenue.
TV revenue, but TV rights.
Yes.
So there's nothing to really go off of anymore because they made their deals. They made their money. I think the issue is the leagues are more greedy. It has nothing to do with the TV partners, really.
Not at all.
Like, it has to do with cable, satellite. They're being charged up the you-know-what by the leagues. Where do you think the cost is going to go? It's going to go to the people watching, which, again, this goes back to what I said before about understanding business and personal, where business is business. Like, you're going to get charged. If you want to watch the product, good. If not, and it's too expensive, then you let it go. I mean, how many times, like, we've cord cutted for YouTube TV?
Yeah.
Because one, because cable Optimum was just a pain in the ass, and they were just losing all the rights to, like, a digital, like a YouTube TV, or just digital plus platforms in general. And YouTube TV has more access to those things than a cable or an Optimum or a Fios. So it's much easier.
Much easier for sure. But again, it's always right before football starts. Nick, a very interesting one in media too says the reports have shown, though, via a post you saw on LinkedIn, that both the WNBA and the NWSL have outdrawn Major League Soccer in TV ratings. However, you know where we're going with this one, Nick. MLS has the much larger television contract and deal, a point that has created a lot of discussion about the value of different sports and their respective media rights. Thank you, Apple TV Plus, for ruining watching Major League Soccer.
I mean, the best way I can put this is that they just got over offered by Apple TV Plus. I mean, there's really no rhyme or reason. Apple TV overpaid, and that's why I think it's a misnomer, is what they're trying to point out. What they were pointing out on that LinkedIn piece I saw,
Yeah.
that like, oh, look at the WNBA, look at the NWSL, the WNBA. Well, or what did you say? Reports show that both the WNBA and NWSL are outdrawing. The WNBA might be outdrawing them. Maybe.
They probably are.
I don't know about the NWSL, but for MLS to have the biggest contract, it's all because they sink their money into why am I forgetting the big player names all of a sudden?
Leo Messi.
Messi, Ronaldo.
Now, Ronaldo doesn't play in the league, but yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, generally, like, they're sinking into names. They're not sinking into the league because people are watching.
Correct.
So WNBA is going to have the most promise, even though Unrivaled is probably going to take over them at some point. And that's the day that you and I will prepare the death of the WNBA at some point. But the NWSL has way more competition with all these other women's sports that they're competing against. First of all, I think I would watch the NWSL over MLS. That's just me.
Well, but more importantly, Nick, they're accessible. They may be on NWSL Plus, but they're on Paramount, CBS, ESPN.
I mean, even if they're digital, it's still easier to access than MLS on Apple TV Plus. I mean,
tell me about it.
I mean, I find it funny that the MLS said, "Oh, we'll get a $250 million deal from Apple TV Plus," but how many people are going to buy Apple TV Plus?
I listen on the radio.
Go ask Commissioner Rob Manfred how that's working out.
Please.
It's dead. It's literally dead. They're burying it.
It's dead and gone, and they're going to be on the hook for a lot of money when that happens. Nick, finally in fantasy sports, the man himself, Matthew Berry, officially ended the Love-Hate Fantasy Football column after 25 years of writing it. The column was a mainstay staple for fantasy football players. It was one of the most popular columns in the genre. Man, Nick, sad day to see Berry close that down. Yes and no.
Yeah, yes and no. I read a lot of the media surrounding this, that I think what he's realizing is, and what you and I are realizing in this network, is digital and podcast and clips do views, not articles anymore. Unless you have like a super niche that like people want to read, then unfortunately you have to get into the video and digital space, the social media space. You can't live writing anymore. And I think that's what was kind of happening. Matthew Berry's company is growing large. He's got investors from LeBron and Maverick Carter and massive investments. Like, so it makes more sense to get in the fantasy sports space, which is a hot space right now, getting in the digital space. I mean, I think he's also part of Sunday Night Football with NBC.
NBC with his single game parlays now, yeah.
And they send him to some of the games. Like, I think this is just a simple notion of doing the math.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, blogging and writing just financially don't make sense. And let me be clear, because like I don't want to offend people, because like Zan, who very good writer, by the way, writes for some MMA sites, for college football sites. It does very well. But it's going to become harder and harder to make money from a blogging or a journalistic writing perspective. Tom does it well too for MMA news site, and did it for some other sites way back when. But it's getting harder because there's more competition in the writing space. Same thing with blogging, with podcasting and doing video content. But at least there's more differentiation in what we're doing in podcasting in the digital space, because you can control the narrative and the genre that you're talking about in that regard. But he's a big name. He probably could have kept it going if he really wanted to, because he's got a big audience, but he had to make a financial and clerical decision to say, I could do more videos, I could do more video content and focus on it. And from what I understand, he had to work really hard on like the intros, and he had like special monologues and stuff in it. So it took more time to really put in. When videos, I mean, not that I really want to pull the curtain back as much, but we use AIs and stuff to figure some stuff out now.
Yeah, we do.
Not that we fact check everything that comes from AI. Heck, I had to do it before our show.
Exactly.
But it helps us generate and keep us moving, which is what we have to stay ahead of everything that's going on in this world.
Without a
Otherwise,
doubt.
you're going to get eaten up.
Nick, let's get out of here on the night, though, man. From in the press box or our story time segment, Nick. This one though kind of came out of, I think we kind of expected it, sadly, but we'll use this as our final topic for the night, Nick. Doris Burke officially out as the analyst on the Team One team for ESPN's NBA coverage, and she's been replaced by Tim Legler.
I'm kind of mixed on this a little bit. She was the first woman to be in the finals booth, so she broke a lot of barriers in that way. But what I will say is, I don't think she was the perfect fit in the booth either.
Especially when you go to, and we talked about it though, Nick. When you go to a 3-person booth, it makes it that much harder.
It's tough. But they didn't go to a 2-person booth, though.
No, they kept it at a 3-person booth for next season.
So they brought in Richard Jefferson, who he's been with ESPN before. He's done a really good job, and he's a former player.
Tim Legler, same thing.
We all know what we say about former players. So think of it from that perspective. Richard Jefferson's going to drive a lot of, like what JJ Redick did when he was in the finals before he took the Lakers job in stupidity. But
you are never going to let him hear the end of that, are you?
No, because he was making so much money. Not that he needs the money anyway. But
exactly.
But I don't know. I'm mixed on it. Do I think it's 100% the right decision? No. But I understand why they went a different direction. Tim Legler is phenomenal.
I love him. He's one of the best analysts out there in basketball, if you ask me.
He does a show on SiriusXM, NBA Radio. He's on with SVP all the time. He's very funny. He's got personality. Doris, I feel like, doesn't have full personality sometimes. And maybe that's what kind of hurt her a little bit. Now, we'll never know the full reason why
exactly
they did it. But I understood why they did it. I agree with that. What Christy just said seemed a little too serious. I also think she took a lot of crap for that free throw comment. What was that from again?
The free throw merchant comment about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
I mean, isn't that part of the game to drive to the hoop and get to the free throw line? I mean, but I don't know. It's a tough story. I did want to get one more story in because we didn't have time. You saw the story about Skip Bayless and Gilbert Arenas.
Oh boy, yes.
So, and I want to pull this up quickly just so I don't get the information wrong. But here it is. Skip Bayless will be part of the new NFL show alongside Gilbert Arenas. You and I were very confused by this.
What's going on now? What? Christy says it right. Oh no.
It seems that the airwaves are not done with Bayless, though, after more than a year of silence. The 73-year-old broadcaster, by the way, is making his return on a new football show produced by Underdog, which makes sense if it's with Gilbert Arenas' content. The same group that produces former NBA star Gilbert Arenas' popular program, Gil's Arena. Bayless broke the news via an interview with The Athletic when he talked up his excitement for the show. Let's see. What will Skip Bayless' new show be called? Bayless' new show will be titled The Arena Gridiron. How original.
Oh, how original. Give me a break.
He will host the show alongside former NFL coach Jay Gruden and former All-Pro cornerback and Super Bowl champion Aqib Talib and Arenas himself.
What?
Reports say former quarterback Cody Kessler and six-time Pro Bowler Gerald McCoy will be reoccurring guests on the show. Christie said Skip will be spewing BS like he always. Yeah, well, why will Gilbert talk NFL? It says the three-time NBA All-Star has made a name for himself in retirement as an NBA analyst. So obviously fans wondered why he's part of a new football-based show. According to Bayless, Arenas is looking to broaden his horizons as an analyst. Nobody asked for Arenas in NFL content.
Nope.
But I don't know how to feel about this. Also, Skip Bayless is facing a lawsuit and Gilbert Arenas is facing a scandal.
Yes, it's like where there. What's the old saying, Nick? Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah, I mean, and also says the future of Gilbert Arenas' YouTube channel. Arenas' YouTube channel will undergo a small rebrand as it expands into NFL media. The channel name will shift from Gil's Arena to The Arena, presented by Underdog.
Oh, yeah.
Grass is
Okay.
green, sky is blue, water is wet.
Pretty much. I mean that it's one combustible element with another combustible element. I don't like it.
I mean, did anyone ask for Skip Bayless to be back doing content?
Let alone with Gilbert Arenas trying to do football content.
And my question is, Skip Bayless actually has a deal with FanDuel.
Okay.
Again, so how does that affect him doing stuff for Underdog?
Oh, get it.
Talk about boom goes the dynamite.
I mean, God, that first debate that they have is going to be explosive.
For a guy who's 73 years old and works out like he's 30.
Dude's an animal.
But that's pretty much it for the story. I just want to say one more thing. Again, like Callan said, thank you to Stan Verrett for coming on. That was an incredible interview. I mean, close to an hour or over an hour. His stories from the ESPN days, his stories from New Orleans,
Yes.
his Stuart Scott stories, the Kobe stuff, holy cow. First of all, he did all the talking for us, which makes it easier as well, which that's great when a guest is willing to talk. That makes it so much easier.
Infectious energy, man. I love it. Infectious energy.
By the way, there is a plan to have a guest next week, ironing that detail out. We are going to talk about the top 100 podcasts, according to Time Magazine, because I thought it was interesting that they didn't include Pardon My Take in a top 100 podcast. But we're working on that. We're working on some other guests as well. Nick has something up his sleeve he's trying to work on. And no, it's not my hand. That was a SpongeBob reference. Anyway, but that'll do it for this show. That wraps up episode 13 of Press Row. Thank you to Stan Verrett for joining us and sharing his insight. True honor. Don't forget to follow the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network across Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Smash that subscribe button over at youtube.com/ETB Network. And of course, a massive shout out to Playback TV for making all this possible, even in technical issues.
Oh, man.
Download the Playback app, sign up for free at playback.tv, and never watch sports alone again.
Exactly.
We'll be back next week on September 3rd. Is that a Thursday or a Wednesday?
That is a Wednesday because I'll be at work the following day.
All right, so join us on Wednesday, September 3rd. Until then, stay plugged in. For Callan McClurg, I'm Nick Morgeson. We will see you next week for episode 14